assuming we're live.
I know. I was like, does that mean we're live?
Are you guys serious? I've said it so many times. When the lights go on, the mics are hot.
But she said it right before you did that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I can't. I had headphones on.
Yeah, that's why we're laughing.
Oh, what'd she say?
I literally said, let me know when we're going live so I cannot be just staring at my phone
And
the
then it
whole
just
time.
turned on.
Oh yeah, sorry. I have headphones. So.
But here's the thing. I only listen to Kevin like 30% of the time.
Well, then whose fault is that?
Well, if you didn't talk about so many other random non-work things,
I don't think that's a thing.
then maybe I
Had a discussion
would listen
earlier
more
today.
often.
Not to cut you off, sorry.
No, you're totally fine.
We had a discussion earlier today, and he was considering, I'm pretty sure he said no, so I don't think I'm snitching.
Okay.
He was considering just lying more. And he said throughout the day, I'm going to be saying that Greg Miller's doing things that he's not. Like, and all these random things. I was like, I don't know. I think you're too much of an authoritative role here, and people believe you when you speak.
You talked me out of it.
You're just giving us...
But
It's already...
Cool Greg,
touch and go whether or not we believe you about stuff, because sometimes
Silly.
you
That's
just
working for your
say
favor.
shit.
That's working in your favor to do it, man. She's already calling you a bullshitter.
You talked me out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Greg had some sort of VO audition.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, Greg's got a Pixar audition. And Cool Greg was like, really? And I was like, nah, that was a lie. So then I took it back.
Can you tell Kevin not to lie about more things?
No, that's the I'm saying I'm not going to commit to the more lying.
But I don't like that it wasn't an option in the first place,
I don't even know what that means.
if I'm being honest.
And frankly, I don't know that you know what that means.
Yeah, I don't like that at one point,
Peach pear is delicious. You know what I mean?
Peach Pear, and we're going to do a Joey Noelle off the cuff ranking.
Oh my God.
Off the
so,
Not ranking.
So glad.
I guess I want to do top 5. I'm going to just commit to top 5.
All right, cherry lime, #1.
No.
Fact.
Also, you go from the bottom up.
Maybe you go from the
Maybe.
bottom up.
Well, maybe I'll start with my favorite. My absolute favorite
Top down.
is passion fruit.
Wait, did you just go top down? I
Yeah.
thought you were saying that was bad.
Do
Yeah,
top
but-
down. People lose interest.
I don't really care.
Yeah, now no one's interested in what #5 is. Top down.
Passion fruit.
Yeah.
Number 2, grapefruit.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't like grapefruit for a long time because I thought it was like too basic. But then I tried it. I was like, oh shit, this is real good. Number 3,
I'm listening.
peach pear.
Peach pear. Okay. That's a good
Number
one.
4, mango. Number 5, lime.
I don't like the key. No, what is it called? Not key lime.
Do you like the lime or the key lime?
No,
I like both.
cherry lime. The tall can.
I don't really like any of the
I
tall
fuck with
can
the tall
ones.
can. It got more flavor. Not
But I
too
don't really
much more.
love the tall can. How do you feel about the tall cans of
Dumb-
LaCroix?
He's got dumb opinions. I'm sure Pure is on his like top 5.
I just don't. I'm not.
I don't prefer
I'm not a
them.
fan.
They're not the worst thing in the world like a lot of people claim they are.
There's some flavors that are weird. I
Yeah.
don't like the blueberry cucumber one.
Oh, I like that one. I fuck with that one.
I also don't like the mixing of fruits and vegetables going on.
See the
What?
What's up?
The
So yeah.
blueberry cucumber nails that
Nixie.
though. It's just a good combo.
You go to Nixie.
Oh, I didn't know who you were talking.
I'm talking to you, Joester.
Talking to the Joester.
Calm down, buddy.
Anastasia, you come here. You're still having the conversation. It's still the pre-show. Anything can happen. You know what I mean?
Kev?
Yeah, what's up?
Mr. Yasman300 in the chat is saying, has Tim seen the Japanese poster for Christopher Robin? I have not. I would like to.
So you're making a request of Kevin to bring you the
Yes.
Japanese poster. I got it. Just make sure I understood what's happening.
Someone, I think
You
it was
need me to push
also
in?
Mr. Yasman.
We have no wheels on these things. It's very annoying.
I think Mr. Yasman was also asking me how jealous I was about the Rooster Teeth Michael B. Jordan collab. The answer is very jealous. And the other note is if he's at RTX and I'm not there, I'm going to be
He will
so
be.
mad.
I mean, eventually. I don't know that it'll be this year, but
Are you not going to RTX?
I don't think so.
Gotcha. Are we going to RTX?
we
Yeah,
are.
you guys have announced that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going.
Am I going?
Oh, we announced that?
Yeah. You
Am I
did.
Did we
going?
announce Kevin? Is Kevin going?
Kevin's not going.
Okay.
I
good.
think the only people in the
Me,
video are
Andy.
you two and Andy.
Yeah,
but I don't
Nick's
know.
going as well.
Okay.
You saw Troy Baker's going.
This poster's all right.
Is this the poster? Mr. Yasman 300. If this
yeah,
is the poster,
let us know if there's a better one.
if not.
I want to see the whole crew. There's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Here, Lee.
He'll go
I
from
might
the
make
round
a
two.
request for more.
Yeah, no, he will go through all 3, Anna, and he will then ask for more.
Okay,
Yeah.
how does the orange compare to the tangerine?
See, I'm about to find out. I've never had them back to back.
Oh,
intrigued.
We're
live
going
taste
crazy today,
test
ladies
here.
and
Wow,
gentlemen.
I didn't understand. I didn't believe
It's a little
that.
crazy.
Can you interrupt the podcast later and give us feedback?
Do a live review.
Yeah.
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 At some point, we do need to
Breaking
do a
news.
definitive ranking. of LaCroix flavors.
I need to. It's hard though. It changes. It changes so often.
Peach
Because I'll
pear,
hate
bro.
a flavor and then
Cherry
I'll love
lime.
it.
Some winners out there.
Oh, I've never had cherry lime.
Is that a new one?
It's one of the tall
That's one of the
cans.
tall cans.
Oh, so yeah,
That's why
okay.
we don't like
Because cherry lime reminds me of the cherry limeade from Sonic
Oh,
that I
which
used
is
to
so
get
good.
all
It's
the time.
a really not as good version.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a way to sell me on it.
I don't like them.
Hey, don't
though,
lie to me.
why.
That's fine. Yeah.
It's like a really shitty Capri Sun.
Tastes like
It's
a
like
shitty.
if you ordered the cherry lime and then let all the ice melt,
That's right, Kevin.
Okay.
is exactly
Okay.
what it tastes
Okay.
like.
Yeah, it does, right?
Yeah, it
They have a
does.
cherry lime as well. Capri Sun.
Have you all ever had the lemonade from Burger King that's icy that they add soft serve to?
No.
I just
not
heard
know
about
that this
this
was
from a
a
Lyft
thing.
driver yesterday. I don't know that
From
it
a Lyft
exists.
driver.
There are
And I was
Jesuses
like,
out there.
tell me more about
I was gonna say
this.
this sounds like secret menu. Like you have to
Yeah.
know. You have to know the king. You have to come in and say the password to get that.
I feel like Chick-fil-A might do something similar,
Ah,
and that one is real good.
it makes sense.
I didn't-
Creamy, like
I-
a creamsicle.
I caught it somewhere I think on Reddit that I didn't understand this. Today I learned that the chocolate frosty at Wendy's is actually half chocolate, half vanilla. Because Dave Thomas thought a pure chocolate one would would offset the fries too much. It wouldn't do it right.
Something about that sounds racist. Somewhere in there.
I'm anti straight chocolate.
Rudy Ortiz is saying Michael B. Jordan and Donald Glover are in negotiation talks for Black Panther 2.
That would be the dream.
But it'd be very interesting world-wise because Donald Glover's
Oh, yeah.
in Spider-Man
Prowler.
I don't care.
as the Prowler.
That's true. That's true. Miles Morales' uncle, I believe, correct? Tim, that was directly at you.
Sorry,
no one else
what?
can answer that question.
Yes.
Miles
yes,
Morales'
yes,
uncle, right?
Miles Morales' uncle. Sorry.
Joey's
I
like,
have an email.
Nana's like,
That's out of
How
my
many,
wheelhouse.
Anastasia, how many of the Marvel movies have you watched?
I have only seen Black Panther.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a
You're
good
gonna
one.
see
yeah.
one.
Well,
Yeah.
It's not a
Well,
terrible
for
choice.
Ragnarok.
Watching all
Oh,
of
it's
them,
so good.
all of them, and then later want to see us talk about it. Got a very popular podcast on that.
Which one should I start with after Black Panther?
Are you planning on watching all
Yeah,
of
are you
them?
trying to get it all or no?
Or do you just
I
want...
feel because that's the thing, because they reference each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do I? What's my on ramp?
It's worth doing it. Just start with Iron Man, a
just do it?
2008 classic, and then
Okay.
just go through all of them. It really is worth it. There hasn't been a single person I know that was not a believer and then started watching them all, got through it, and was like, not worth it. Everyone's like, I'm in. Sign me up for the next
All
one.
right, Iron Man.
Yeah.
I should have seen Iron Man.
You should have,
seen
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's-
Now you have an
that's a
excuse. A
blank
2-year-old,
spot.
okay. I understand why you've missed the last 2 years of movies.
I didn't see Black Panther until it was available for rent on Amazon.
Oh, so it's
last
super
week.
recent. Wow. Okay.
If you're not ready for the whole commitment, then I would watch Thor Ragnarok. That's one that you can
Okay.
watch
Yeah.
kind of independently
Standalone.
and not have to...
That's very
good.
funny.
Sugar-free Daddy
My
says Thor
husband is
2.
going to appreciate this because he's always pushing.
Oh, yeah?
The superhero movies.
Do
And
it.
I'm
You
like,
got to.
Let's watch Feelings.
He's like, that's your job. You got enough of that at your work. It's time to see things explode and
Yeah.
monsters throw things in the air.
And that news has been debunked, says Dustin Cunningham.
Well, there
What
you go.
news?
The Donald Glover
Oh.
news.
Makes sense.
Breaking news, man. We're just here
Yeah.
with the
Mystery
I'm
Yasmin
fact-checking.
asked something that came up in the morning show chat as well that I did not have a chance to bring up. Did anyone ever watch the Happy Time Murders R-rated trailer?
Yes.
Yeah?
The trailer played before Deadpool 2 for me.
Oh, nice.
It was a movie that shouldn't be made. I'm going to be honest.
It looked god awful.
Really?
God awful.
I like the idea.
God-awful.
It's a great idea.
Have you heard the
And-
idea? You know what we're talking about here?
No.
From what I understand, based on just a screenshot, it's Melissa McCarthy in a world where puppets exist as similar
like
like
Sesame Street style puppets.
Okay,
Muppets
like Muppets.
are
in the
real.
so like
Into this?
they're like it's a cop thing, right? There's been a bunch of
They're like,
murders.
these streets ain't Sesame. And I'm like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But yeah, it's not good. The end joke that lasts way too long
Way too long.
is these two puppets having very graphic puppet sex, and the male puppet ends up finishing, and it takes like a minute,
Yeah, it's
and it's 30 seconds of this puppet ejaculating, and I'm like,
the joke is it could have been 2 seconds.
2 seconds instead, 30 seconds of just
This is in the trailer.
yeah,
Yeah.
the R-rated trailer, the red.
Oh, okay,
trailer.
okay.
And I'm like, so that's the bar that they've set for this movie. It looks horrible.
I forget. Did anyone see Cock Blockers or whatever? The
Yes.
Cena movie? Was that funny?
That movie
funny.
was hilarious.
That was
Really?
much
Hilarious.
better than it had any right.
So
Yeah.
Game Night and that.
Game
are
Night,
good.
hilarious. Game Night's a better movie.
Okay.
Like I stand by Game Night being a good movie.
Yeah.
Cock Blockers is
snakes.
Giant snake going by.
One giant
Sure.
I thought about
Cock
it.
Blockers is a very very funny movie.
Okay. I'll take
missed
it.
that one.
I'll take it.
And then, yeah, with this mic, you gotta be nice and close to it.
All right.
Yeah, rotate it with you.
All
When you
up in
turn
that
back to Tim, turn
business.
that way. When you do this, turn it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. You got it. See, you're a pro.
Right.
Look at this. Like you
Right.
podcast before. We're mad at you.
We're so mad.
One of my favorite moments yesterday, just because it was a reversal of fortunes. We did a party mode here. So the thing where we were screaming and singing, but costumes and all this jazz playing this game, is you for some reason decided you wanted to ride Andy. Like, just like give him a hard time. And it was when we were watching that thing, you're like, this video's still going? Andy, you didn't have time to edit it? And Andy's just like, I got so many things to do. And you were like, all right, because usually it's Nick that gets pushed too far by somebody. And here it was Andy.
It's fun not to be the person who listens to everyone once. Apologies, sorry, we had to stoke these for the thing yesterday.
It's all right.
Very professional around here. I don't know how to do any of this. I would just have one giant light on.
Neither does anyone.
So Pierre here in the chat says Mark Nix on GOG.
We'll
Will it
never have
happen?
Nix on GOG.
I'd like to just to hear his stories of him fucking with friends.
Yeah, Pierre says Mark Nix on GOG. This, of course, Mark Nix from IGN. He's been there forever. The problem is that if you could get just Nix to come in and be Nix and just have a conversation about all the crazy things that have happened at IGN, great. This is the guy, though, that when we said we were going to go see Rambo, shaved his facial hair into Rambo's thing and dressed as like, he would come in and do a bit. He would come in and be like Andy Kaufman this place and just...
I feel like that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for a 5-minute video would be great. For an hour-and-a-half long podcast where he's giving us nothing and we're just like, all right. Anyways, what's this Fran thing? What have you done to Fran? No, I was talking to him, not you. No, I know what you're doing. You're blinding me.
Yeah, that is.
Sorry, it's really bright.
Don't look at it, Anna.
I look too long.
Close your eyes, Marion.
Anna, can I get you to talk into the mic a little bit?
Yes, please. Yes, yes. Hello, hello. Oh.
I didn't do it.
When you move the light, did you turn off the mics? Is that it? If you hold that silver mic, Anna, and then touch any metal stuff, you'll get electrocuted.
Oh.
We call it
Really fun.
shock me.
Who first learned that?
It was me.
Yeah.
It's always Kevin, but instead of fixing it, we just turned it into a bit.
Uh-huh.
Like that other mic we had where we walked around
We've
doing
got
it.
it hung now, so you don't have to touch it.
Or just don't touch the metal. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways
no,
around
a lot
this.
of solutions, a lot of easy solutions for
It
not real
doesn't
problems.
need to be like a big deal. You get electrocuted.
Sure.
Pull you?
Yes, please. It's kind of hard to,
No,
to shimmy.
As you may have noticed, I'm very animated. So when they built the studio, the concern was that I would jump out of my chair a lot, and then this would go back and hit the screen and break stuff.
Literally, like 2 weeks later, he jumped out of his chair.
You know what?
Because there were no wheels, it didn't move. Thank God. It's
How
true.
does this look for you, Kev? Is that
Screen
normal?
safe.
Yeah, it looks great.
Am I too hot?
You're a little too hot.
Everything looks a little too bright.
Hey.
Hey, I'm up, right?
The
Heck,
zebras
nothing
look
on
great
there.
though. Like there's
That's
a little bit on.
Trevor Starkey says it's lightning reaction in real life with the yeah.
This is pretty bright.
Yeah, the front screen looks bright.
That looks great.
The brought to you by looks blown out.
Yeah, the back screen for sure is too bright.
It makes no sense. The white on white, you can't read it.
It's got a drop shadow, and you need to lose.
Drop top.
Attitude. This is gonna be a fun one, guys.
Pierre says it was
I feel
almost
like it's a
100
Friday, but it's a
degrees
Wednesday.
in New Orleans. That
That's
sucks.
awful.
Tim's going to New Orleans tomorrow. Have you
That
been to New Orleans before?
This looks that looks better.
Big
What are you going to do?
I think the
friend's
background.
bachelor party.
Can you just check the brightness on
It's
background?
gonna be.
It's going to be.
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a scene.
It's gonna be 100 degrees. Good lord.
Get a beignet.
Carry a little
will.
hand towel around with you. That's what I learned.
I'm gonna carry a big hand.
Yeah.
It's very smart.
It's gonna,
It's actually
oh,
Carry a bath towel.
You want to be
yeah.
able to like stick
I
it
don't
in your
get
back
Maybe go
pocket.
down a little
Gotta-
bit. See what that looks like. Is it gonna moray?
no.
Tim's right. It does look a little bright.
That just looks dark.
It's fine though.
That looks good. Let's just go with that.
you
Enough.
sure?
Yeah, it
I hate this.
looks nice. Well, I mean, it looks nice
I
on here.
hate
You gotta
this.
tell us where this is the worst sharp monitor on the planet. So you gotta tell us what looks good on your
honestly,
side.
it looks beautiful right now.
Kevin,
Guys.
I trust you.
All right, you guys want to wrap this up or
Sure. Thank you, Charles, for your thoughts and prayers for my wife.
what happened to your wife?
Nothing. He's referencing a long Twitter thread about childbirth.
She having a baby?
No. She's not having a baby yet either. No, it's not. No, it was
Now, Nick is a great name for a kid.
It's not. No, it's not what's
Boy or
happening.
girl?
She's talking about the future. Well, it'd be Nikki then, right?
Yeah, that's
We
fine.
can talk about childbirth all podcast long.
Oh, yeah,
I
good
can
point.
tell you about it.
Death, sex, and money. Well, if you want, I'll bring it up there. Put a pin in this and be like, hey, why did
Was
Charles
it as painful
apologize?
as they say?
That's what we're getting into. Don't
you
get
do
ahead
it
of yourself.
again?
Kevin's got a lot of great questions from the press pool over there.
Press pool.
All right, everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
This LaCroix BS has been going on for too long. I'm back on the sauce, ladies and gentlemen.
I've noticed.
The
You're back
original-
on the sauce?
Back on the
Back on the
sauce.
Diet Coke, everybody.
It feels like coming home. It really does.
Coming home.
It may. Do I sleep well at night? No. But is it because of the Diet Coke? No, probably not.
I
Who
thought
knows?
Probably not.
yesterday during a party mode, I saw
Yeah.
you drink one, and I was like, "Oh, he's celebrating." Now, no, you're just back. You're just
You know, here's how it goes.
here. Lay it on me, Nick. How's it going?
I left Diet Coke. I tried to quit
Yeah.
Diet Coke. It was my last vice, that and coffee. But no one in their right mind in America today would quit coffee.
No one's proven coffee's bad for you.
It's not. In fact, I can point to a lot of studies that are probably make-believe that tell you that there's a lot of beneficial aspects of coffee.
course.
I digress.
The bean.
I stopped doing this because I read an article a long time ago that it led to like all sorts of weird stomach issues.
Yeah.
So 3 months in, I'm like, I'm just gonna reward myself with one, just see if the taste is still there. And it's been approximately 1 week, and I have fallen off the wagon hard.
Yeah.
Hard. I drank nothing but diet soda yesterday. I was like, why is my calf cramping? And I was like, oh, I haven't had water in 48 hours. This is bad. Anyway, I'm excited for this podcast.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I like that. I'd like to point out that you said the LaCroix over here at Tim Gettys.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm good. I got my haircut today.
Yeah.
And for the first time ever, they were like, "Do you want me to trim your eyebrows?" And I'm like,
Oh.
"I'm at Supercuts.
That's how you know you're getting old.
Why not?
Yeah.
Let's go." And then they just put a comb on it and then shaved, and now they feel like razors.
That's fun.
And like I can't stop touching them.
They
Go
look.
against-
Oh, they do feel. They do
Anna,
have a
you can
sharp
touch
edge
his
to
face
them.
too if you want.
Anna, you go ahead.
It's fun.
Can I
Go for it.
touch?
Yeah.
You don't have to.
That's
Oh,
the other
wait,
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you were-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into it. Into it.
Over here,
I didn't get a cut.
the host of my favorite podcast, Death, Sex, and Money, Anna Sale.
Oh. Thank you for having
No,
me.
thank you for coming back. You've
Yeah.
returned. You were on a GameOverGreggy exclusive many a moon ago.
Yes.
Well over a year ago, before I was even married. I hadn't announced it was going to happen yet.
Yes.
And you knew. I let you in.
I know.
I know.
I felt very, very privileged.
Now, what I want to point out, you called out the LaCroix BS.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 LaCroix on the table, 1 Diet Coke, and then just 2 random coasters that are doing nothing. I feel like we've fallen off our coaster game. It used to be very much we're going to protect them.
Well, you know, Cool Greg is really the keeper of the coasters.
It is.
I
That
do
is
want to point
Cool
out, though,
Greg's.
that our one and only guest does not have a beverage in front of herself.
I don't know. She had a
Would you
water.
like a water?
She had a LaCroix
You know
earlier.
what? Here's my special request. I would like a flavor of LaCroix that I've never had before.
Well, we
You
can
want
do
cherry
that.
lime?
We can do that.
We don't have cherry lime.
We don't have cherry. What? You're telling me in all the blue tarps out there, there's no cherry
What
lime.
kind of second-rate
Over there,
Cherry
Kevin
lime.
Coelho from the Kind of Funny Press.
Cherry lime is my favorite flavor, and I've taken them all home.
I feel
Really?
Yeah.
Monster.
Wow.
Yeah, they're great. I just ran out.
I respect that.
You took them all home.
That's the
I'm
one I
not
want to
sharing
try.
these.
That's the one I want. I want to try one. Bring it home. Bring me one tomorrow.
Here's what we can do, though. We can have Cool Greg grab you as many flavors as we have access to, and you can choose.
Oh.
Was that
Cool
something you were
Greg!
interested in?
Miller,
I
you
feel
were-
like Cool
Yeah.
Greg should
I
just make
finished
an
them.
executive decision.
No, he can't do that. You don't
No,
know.
no,
Cool
you
Greg.
don't know
Cool Greg
Cool Greg.
will buckle under the pressure of that. He doesn't want to do it.
Here, so what have you tried? LaCroix
Lime
wine?
and pamplemousse are my favorite.
Okay.
But I'd like to try a flavor
Here's
I
what we need
haven't.
you to do, Cool Greg. We need you to go into the fridge, and every single different flavor of cold LaCroix that's in there, we need one of each.
Yeah, we're gonna do a sampling.
Thank you,
Smattering
thank you,
of
Cool
LaCroix.
Greg. Thank you very much for being on top of that. Go ahead.
Is the are those paper towels still down there?
Gosh, your hands
I
are
know
cold.
we
and
don't
I'm
have
hot.
enough
It's great.
coasters.
You got.
Yeah, they're way at the back.
Stack of coasters over there.
All right.
I got them all multicolored.
Anna,
I
fill
was
air,
really
I'll
into
go
felt coasters for a while. Thanks, boss.
Now, is this to blow your nose?
Kinda.
There's a toilet paper roll in there. That
I
might be
like these. They're
softer.
more robust.
Oh, look at all these.
They're more robust. Thank you.
No
They're
problem.
for
Get
the
it.
different
Get it right
shows.
there.
Yeah.
Every show has its own color.
Oh, so we're cross branding here.
Yeah.
It's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Crazy. You know, we're just letting our hair down because apparently we just don't even use them anymore.
I don't care about them.
Why don't you care? Like, I don't
Because,
understand. You're the one who wants. It's always fashion over function. Isn't
yeah.
this the fashion of the shows to have coasters?
And that's why they're on
They
the desk.
match your
still.
shirt.
I know.
Yeah.
A lot of things are matchy here.
Yeah.
No, I just don't care about them. Because the problem is I usually have too many drinks for the color coordination.
Yeah.
Now, was that the coasters problem, or was that a you problem?
I think it's the problem of the people that decide to think it's funny to throw the coasters at other people.
Okay,
which
now when
I've
you say
seen
people, you
all
mean
of you
me.
do. No, I mean
Sir.
literally everyone but me.
The people.
Sir,
There you go. Perfect.
Now me
I
too.
say this. I
Now
will.
me
I will
too.
back Tim up on this. Yesterday, Kevin doing an excellent job setting up that incredibly complex Let's Play.
Yeah.
Did I think, hey, no way this is going to work? Yes. Did it work? Mystically surprised by that.
All right, here's what we got.
All right, what do we
we
got?
got the
Thank
taste test. So we
you.
have a kiwi sandia,
Kiwi sandia.
kiwi watermelon,
These are all for her. Put
tangerine,
them all in front of her. She gets to
Tangerine.
pick.
and pampabaya, apple cranberry. There's a lot of things
Oh.
going on there.
Cool Greg's still going.
Cool Greg's got them in his pockets too. Okay, fine. So then you got a pear and you got a pamplemousse.
Yeah.
And
Peach
then-
pear.
Peach pear. My
Look at
bad.
this.
I'll just
Good
stop.
job, Cool Greg.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Wow, that's
An orange,
Thank
classic
you.
orange.
okay.
Now,
wow.
I'm gonna do a little spoiler here for you. They're all still gonna just taste like carbonated water.
That's not true.
So
With a little treat.
well,
A little
they-
different treat.
I always say the LaCroix.
Have you ever had one,
smell-
Nick?
Multiple.
Have you?
I
I've
just-
never seen you have one. I don't trust that it's happened.
I discovered the LaCroix before you.
I know.
And specifically the coconut LaCroix, which I was like, I tried to get into it,
Oh.
but I just can't for whatever reason. And it's potentially because I smoked too many cigarettes in my lifetime, and my sense of smell and taste are completely off.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they just smell like coconut, but it doesn't taste like anything. So
Yeah,
like
that's the whole
whatever
thing.
the essence is hits my nose, but not my.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Well, so there are so many great tweets about it, right? Where it's like drinking a LaCroix is like drinking carbonated water with someone cutting fruit in the other room. I've seen that one.
No, totally.
Exactly what it is.
What was the one about a condom? It's like drinking carbonated water,
It's
but
like
the
drinking Sprite through a condom. So funny.
That's really good.
Oh,
So what
that
are you
makes
going?
me
What
want to
did you
drink
pick?
the.
What did you pick?
I picked apple cranberry to start.
Apple cranberry to start. All
That's,
right.
I like how
Go
you,
ahead.
yeah.
Hit it. See what you think.
Hit
Because
it.
you're taking some of this home, obviously.
Oh.
No, throw it out. We got
No.
more. We got so
That's
more.
like when you
Tall
show
cans are
when you
weird.
show your mom like macaroni art, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna put this one in the fridge,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna
One more.
raspberry,
Yeah,
cran
this one
raspberry."
belongs in the
Raspberry.
special place,
Yeah,
the trash
yeah.
can.
I don't want like the excitement, the newness of it to wear off.
Right.
So I'm gonna
Once
put
you-
it
once you-
away.
yeah,
I only
once
bring
you
it out
really
every
see
so
that.
often. Yeah, exactly.
That's why we all
Exactly.
have this expectation of ourselves. It's not true.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ben.
If you didn't know, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can get each and every episode early. How early, Nick?
You could be watching that right now.
That's right. For just $1, you can watch us record the shows live. But if you don't want to give us that $1, you can give us more bucks and watch them on demand later. Get pre and post shows. Get cool shout outs on the show. Like all of these Patreon supporters, Kevin. And of course, Patreon producer Tom Bach. But if you have no bucks to toss our way, no big deal. You can head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where the whole show goes up as one big topic in MP3 the following Friday. That's right. You get 1 week of exclusivity when you're watching it somewhere else.
Heck yeah, you do.
Now, I have a question for you. I touched this shirt earlier. Is it a new one? It feels this party mode shirt feels very soft.
No, no. No, it's
Okay.
pretty old, actually.
You've just been taking care of it. I like that.
Well, I don't traditionally dry the shirts.
Oh, you hang them?
I'll usually wash them on cold and hang to retain the color.
Sure.
But that
Interesting.
usually leads to a less soft shirt.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that you touched it and thought it was soft.
Yeah.
It's possible that I've been drying this by accident and this whole time have not known.
Yeah?
It's also possible that I poured detergent directly on it, and that's where this nice little pink stripe's coming from. Here.
That's no
I was
good.
told by I was doing laundry the other day, and my wife saw me do that, and she was like, "You're probably not supposed to do that for colored shirts." I'm like, "Why not?" She's like, "Look at all
These
like
streakies.
of the Jackson Pollock
The
shirts
bleaches,
that you have
yeah.
now." Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
bad. But
When you caught the shingles, and I walked around here disinfecting
Talk
everything,
about death.
I ruined
Oh.
that. I ruined that Portillo shirt because
I'm
I
sorry.
had to use bleach on everything.
yeah, I caught shingles. I got a
That's
case of
bad.
shingles the other day. Didn't know what it was though.
The other day.
Well, like 3 months ago. You're
How
fine.
long did your shingles last?
A while.
yeah, they.
They lasted.
You
three,
had 'em?
3
You've
weeks.
had
I've
a
not, but I've
You
known
fought the
people.
beast
I've
known as
known
shingles.
people who've had shingles.
But prior to having them diagnosed,
I'm sorry, real quick too. Were they all north of 65, 70?
They were older.
Yeah.
All right, life.
Just throwing it out there. It was a big risk. I remember for my grandmother when I had chicken pox. They were worried about shingles getting to her.
Anyway, no, prior to it being diagnosed, I didn't know what it was, and I thought it was a staph infection because I wrestle, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and there's a lot of infections going on the mat
Yeah.
because it's just people rolling around. So I called him and I was like, "Look, I don't know what it is. They think it might be a staph infection. It's knowing me and my luck, probably MRSA. It's gonna go straight into my brain and kill me. So you have to disinfect the entire office." And Greg did. What did you do? You just took some bleach out and just started spraying it
Yeah,
everywhere?
we had like 409
Yeah.
with bleach or whatever. I'm like, here we go. Just go to town. Didn't warn anybody. I didn't want them to panic.
No.
I was panic enough for everybody.
Did you do all the doorknobs like I told
Oh
you?
yeah,
to?
yeah.
Cool.
You didn't tell me that.
Well.
You said the controllers, and I was like, oh, trust me, I'm going further than that.
You're going deep.
Did that? Yeah.
Going deep.
And
Probably good that you did it too, because I didn't know. I think I probably was in the contagious stage, but you would have had to rub up against my face with an open sore on your
There was
face.
one time when I had to go get something from you.
was bad.
You drove here, and I
Yeah.
came downstairs, and I opened the door of your car, and you did the don't look at me.
Oh.
But then you were
Phantom of
like,
the Opera?
no, but now look at me though. Look at me. It's
No,
weird.
but I wanted you to see it's gross. Because I went out and I was like, I wonder what people's perception of me is like this. Because you can't see yourself, but you still feel it. And oddly enough, it was not good. Most people saw me. Most people would look at me and be like, and they give you that one look of like, what happened to this guy? Because I was like, well, maybe it just looks like I got into a fight, but they don't know. But whenever you see anything out of the ordinary like that, your first instinct is to like stay away, right?
Yeah.
I was telling you, he took days off of the shows, and I was like,
Yeah.
just get
Like
a
a
Phantom
week.
of the Opera mask and
Yeah.
come in. And he's like, if you can find one, I will. And I didn't look for it.
Well, also, I was more concerned with being contagious.
Sure,
making
sure.
That was gone,
And
'cause I
this
didn't want
this
to
is the
get
first
it.
time there's been these are two Joester stories, Joey Noel, where I really came to understand how much she trusts and respects me, because it was that she came in for a meeting
That
and
is
started
super misplaced.
eating off your desk. And everybody's not like eating straight off it, but like put her plate down on the desk. Now she's like, I throw a bird seed on Nick's desk.
Made a burrito on the desk.
It's like Cold Stone Creamery.
Please tell me that's what you guys do when I don't come in. Just really artistically fun food things on my desk.
Anyway, she was eating lunch off that, and everybody's like, "Whoa, Nick's sick, blah blah." And she's like, "Well, Greg cleaned everything," and I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You clean this?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Then I'm fine. I'm safe." And then the flip side was yesterday I made a DiGiorno's pizza, and half of it fell on the floor, and I picked it back up and put it down, and then I put a note there that said, "Hey, full disclosure, this half fell on the ground."
Weird call
Yeah.
with that. I walked in the kitchen, saw half a pizza with a post-it note that said, "Pizza fell on the ground." So I'm like, We had a excessive amount of guests coming over yesterday. Like there was, I think, what was the final count?
100.
It was like
100.
4 from Nintendo and 2 IGN
It
personalities.
felt like
here.
there was 15 Nintendo PR people
Sure,
in this building.
sure.
And they all walk in, and I'm just like, is Greg doing this to be funny?
Yeah.
Because it was funny. Or is he just like, maybe the people will be okay with ground pizza?
I mean, here's what I know is that I have a barrier of germs for myself. And I know that Cool Greg and Kevin do not share that barrier. Theirs is much lower. You know what I mean? Like, they're higher. They're totally
There's a threshold.
Greg,
They're
Greg,
There's
yeah,
a much lower threshold.
Kevin Coyle from the Kind of Funny Press.
I can confirm that I saw the post-it and I was like, oh, okay.
I brushed it off the
ate
bottom
quite
and
a
I
bit
put
of
it there.
pizza.
And so
You
the,
ate
but,
the pizza?
Yeah, I ate the pizza.
Because I was gonna say later in the day, I came
gone.
through. There was a quarter of a piece of pizza left, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Didn't even see the note.
Yeah.
It was probably there. I just probably didn't pay attention
It
like
was.
me normally. I start eating it, and Tim waits until I get a good bite, and he's like, "You know that fell on the floor, right?"
No, I was in the other room. Nick is still in his stupid fucking costume with the little shorts. And I just see him
June 1st.
doing he's trying to fuck with me from the kitchen. And he always does this. Where he just like peeks his head out and like starts sticking his tongue out. It's like very Nick. And he's eating this pizza. I'm like, oh dude, the pizza fell on the floor. And he's just like,
Just trying to.
I didn't, in a very un-Nick move, he was like, I don't know, he just kept going. I'm like,
I was
His
like,
immune system's still very high from the
I
shingles.
got through
bout.
shingles,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Well, I'll tell you, they gave me the antiviral, like the shot for it, and I was like, I'm ready to go now. I'm pretty sure I'm
Yeah.
impervious to everything. Got to get that second shot though. Apparently there's 2, so maybe I should go back.
Anyway, so I did that, and I was explaining out there that, and Joey's like, "I'm hungry." I'm
put
like,
a
"Well, there's
reminder on the
pizza in
calendar to
there.
do that real
There's
quick."
pizza in there." And she's like, "Well, yeah, didn't you say you dropped it on the floor?" I'm like, "Yeah, I dropped it on the floor." And she goes, "Well, would you eat it?" And I went, "No." And she's like, "Well, then I'm not going to eat it either." I'm like, "Oh, there you go." Joey respects my decisions that have led to this company and floor pizza.
Yeah.
First off, this episode of the Game Over Greggy Show is brought to you by Omaha Steaks and Stamps.com, but I'll tell you about that later. Anna,
Yes,
you're back.
sir. I am.
and you came in. You approached me this time. You said,
did.
"Hey, I want to come back on the show because I want to talk about men. I want to talk to men about something." And you said you guys are the men. I know
show.
men. It's you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. You must have misled her.
You have shingles. She knew.
I beat shingles.
Exactly.
first
There
off.
you go.
Yeah.
That's me.
Because there are people who have probably died from shingles, and I'm just letting you know right now.
Yeah.
I'm a virile
Many
human being.
grandparents have died from shingles. That is a true thing.
The second I knew it was shingles too, I was like, God damn it. The jokes about my age are never going to stop now. Because the first thing you Google, small children and super old people get shingles. No one
and
in
now
between
just
ever
a
gets
picture of you is just going to be in there.
You know, like the Scarpino case. If you're
of course, I got fucking shingles, some sort of weird old person disease of yore.
Anna, you host this podcast, Death, Sex, and Money.
I do.
I tell everybody they should go listen to it. This whole this episode is titled Death, Sex, and Money because we're going to talk about your
Oh,
man
exciting.
issue and then
Okay,
talk about
my
death,
man
sex, and money
issue,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Oh, man issue.
What's
Okay.
your issue with the men? What's wrong?
Okay, it's not that what's
Where
wrong.
do we begin?
Here's what I'm working on in the show. So I'm a woman. I come from a family of 5 daughters.
Wow.
Okay.
And the rest of my team, for the most part, there's one man that works on the show, but the rest of us are women. But it has seemed like in this moment in America and sort of in the world and Western civilization, kind of a combination of things are sort of shaking up expectations of how men are supposed to behave and what's appropriate and what like a good man does and is. So we're doing this project where we are asking men about manhood and how they define what a good man is in this moment and who their models are.
Gotcha.
Because my sense is if I were, as a woman, like I was born in 1980 after the women's movement, I feel like I've kind of always been surrounded by this conversation about like, here's how womanhood is changing. Here's like the different ways to be a woman. And I feel like men have not had that sort of impetus to have a conversation about being a good man and manhood. So I want to know how you think about masculinity and manhood.
It's still rough, I think. And Jen and I appreciate the country music. And so I listen.
I also appreciate country music.
Okay, good. You never know where you're starting from. So like I walk in, I say, "Hey Alexa, play music." She puts on country, obviously, and shout out to everybody's Alexa I just turned on. Always my favorite thing to do. Alexa, order tampons. People love that joke too. Yeah, I do it on the morning shows all the time. Gets people really angry.
It does.
Just because their Alexa starts bopping off, they know what's going on. Anyways, though, like,
don't know what's
there's
going
still, and I hate the phrase toxic masculinity because I feel like anytime you start talking about these issues and you want to use something that encapsulates it well, toxic masculinity or social justice warriors or whatever, it's people who also want to detract from the idea use that as an attack. However, there are so many country songs that are still like, oh man, she broke up with me, but fuck her. I'm gonna make her life a living hell or something. Or there's one that's like
Revenge.
almost sweet song of like it's different for girls, right? Where it's like basically this guy singing about like how it's different for girls and guys when they break up. A guy can go get a whiskey and coke and forget. A guy wants to take this girl home, and it's like totally like, well, I think girls want to do that too. I don't.
They don't have trucks though. They don't drive those trucks.
They do have trucks. I know so many Missouri women have trucks.
You're making an assumption right there.
Yeah, exactly. But when we were listening to, and when that one came on last night, and Jen and I just started talking about it, she's like, well, yeah, that's a big problem about it. But like, also, what a horrible message to be sending to men listening to this song, because it is very much like you wear your emotions, right? You're gonna mask them or do this, and it's not okay still to cry, and it's not okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think it's weird for like, I think I get the sense that there's a large portion of the male community out there who's just waiting for it all to blow over, right? And then I think there are people who you have to come to the realization that we're in yet another progressive moment, like we've had so many before in the history of our country, and that this is something that is going to continue to evolve. And so I think there is a natural defense mechanism for a lot of people in general that when someone says, "Hey, you might be doing something wrong," your first instinct is to always go find something wrong with what they said, push back, push back, push back.
Yeah, well, not a lot of people are talking about this is what you should do. Like it's when you hear the term masculinity right now,
right,
there's not a lot of times it's used in positive framing.
Sure.
And I feel like, why not? Like what parts of masculinity are sort of like things that are positive? How do we talk about that?
But see, for me, I think it boils down to like, I think the same traits that would make you a good person would make you a good guy. Namely, if someone says, if a huge amount of people are saying, hey, we're noticing a trend that's a problem here, right? We're noticing that a lot of people are being physically, mentally abused in a place like Hollywood, and that's coming from a specific type of people, right? And you happen to maybe be reflected in that type of people, not necessarily in your actions, but just as far as your gender or your ethnicity. I think you kind of owe it to yourself. And my example of what I would like people to do is just listen to that, incorporate that feedback, maybe recognize that there might be a natural defense mechanism in you saying, wait a minute, I'm not like that, so let's shut this thing down because I don't want this coming to me. I don't do those things. But understanding that just because you don't doesn't mean that there aren't other people out there and that maybe you need to just like be listening and be a part of maybe the solution to that. You know, not necessarily that you can do anything, but I think there's a lot. You know, I also was born in the 1980s. I was born in 1980, actually.
Me
so
too.
Shout out. What month?
September.
Oh, January. Sorry.
All right, you're a little older.
Yeah, well, there it is. A little older.
I was gonna say,
a little older, far less wise. Let's
You
put it that
seem
way.
so much younger than him, though.
Well,
You know what I mean?
it's the shingles.
It's
The shingles. Let me tell you guys, when you get the shingles, it ages you. But it's been interesting because you look at the idea of what a man was supposed to be from the 80s, right? Look at all the examples of what a man's supposed to be in the 80s.
Action movies.
Arnold
Schwarzenegger.
Andrew McCarthy
Schwarzenegger.
in Pretty in
Okay,
Pink.
nobody wanted to be Andrew McCarthy. Maybe because he ended up.
Everybody wanted to be Ducky, right?
No, nobody wanted to be Ducky. Everyone, I don't care what you guys say. I always wanted to just be James Spader because he always seemed like he had his shit together. He was the asshole and he was the villain, but at least he was like rich and like he probably had a better future. I didn't side with Ducky. Let's just put it that way. Nobody sided with Ducky.
Okay.
Andrew McCarthy, of course, was the great guy to be. But I mean, you look at your examples of like, okay, who are your icons culturally from the 80s? And obviously, I grew up in the 80s. I mean, it's all like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Spielberg, guys that punched and shot first, didn't ask a whole lot of questions later. And I think that forms a lot of people's opinion of how they see the world. And it wasn't until really you get a little older, and obviously I've been married for a while, so I've seen a lot of the world through my wife's perspective, and that's broadened my horizons a lot. That when you go in and see a movie, like I always point to the latest Bond movie. And Bond is always the guy that can walk into a room within 5 seconds, a girl wants to have sex with him. And when I was a kid, I was like, that's really cool. I want that. I want to have that sort of effect on people.
Power.
I want
Yeah.
them to be so attracted to me that they just have to throw themselves at me.
And this is why you joined the marching band, right?
That's exactly why I chose theater, marching band, and choir in high school. But I stand by the fact that you can make out with lots of people if you go. My marching band.
You
people
knew
have a
what
lot
was
of
up.
fun.
There's
Come
a
on,
lot of
son.
hooking up that happens
We
in
had the
bands.
flag team
Yeah.
and the drill team, and we were together in close. I'm not going to get into that. But I watched the latest Bond film, and I'm like, wow, this doesn't work anymore. He comes in and he starts talking to Monica Bellucci, and within 5 seconds they're making out and having sex. But it just does not. It sticks out like a sore thumb as this old school example of what a man's supposed to be. And I honestly think that's one of the reasons why that series is not finding its footing anymore. It's an archaic sort of example of what that hero should be anymore. Like, you know, that was Ian Fleming's way of writing like every quote unquote man from the 60s, like what an idyllic version of themselves supposed to be. And that person is a jet setter, not stuck to anyone, can have sex with whomever they please, has infinite funds from a government, can kill whomever they want, can do whatever violence they want, and there's no repercussions, and they are the hero. But it's just not, that's not accurate. That's not real life. So I don't know.
So who's like the model seducer now that feels real?
Oh God.
It's like impossible to answer that question.
Oh God, you just said
No, I honestly think, I mean, I look at it through my wife's perspective, right? And I look at the men that she responds to, and I think those are guys that have a natural sex appeal because they're good looking, but also are seemingly have good careers because they're talented, but also treat their significant others well. You know, when she sees a picture of like a Chris Hemsworth and he's carrying his little baby and his wife's next to him, I mean, that helps me form a different perspective on him. I look at him, I'm like, this dude's Thor. I want to be Thor. I want those abs. I want that thing where they take the shirt and the V, and everyone, even myself.
Thrust bucket, I believe you called it once.
I do call it that. I didn't want you to paint
You don't have
that
to clean
picture
it
in
up
front of
because
Anna,
Anna
but
has
that's
a
okay.
real career and a real podcast.
Thrust bucket. I'm gonna use that in the show somehow.
Slide it in. Everyone's like, wait, what?
Growing up 10 years after you, so 1989, I feel like things
Ghostbusters
have been very different. Like, it's still not good. But I grew up like very differently than what you're saying about like it's not cool to cry. I feel like from a very young age, it's like feel your feelings. And like, especially growing up in San Francisco, and I understand I have a different experience than many other people out there. But in San Francisco, it was very much like men are supposed to cry. Men are supposed to be able to be emotional and communicate and be honest and have these like feelings and also be able to express them. And I also feel like with the rise of talking, you have James Bond, right? I had Justin Timberlake, you know what I mean? But it's like with the rise of like the boy bands and stuff like that, and then like really
That's a great point.
turn into like metrosexuality
That's a
becoming
great
the
point.
norm.
I remember
It was cool to be metro. It is cool to be
Again,
metro.
I want to just give
Hold
a
on.
shout out to New Kids on the Block.
No, stick with me, because
Okay.
I remember that being a thing in grade school that we, as the boys, had to hate New Kids on the Block because it was not cool. That was a girl thing to like.
Yeah.
They were like, same thing with like Menudo. Like, you know what I mean? That was a girl thing to like. You couldn't do that. And I do remember when Backstreet and 98 Degrees and NSYNC happened, it was this weird thing of my generation, I think, immediately being dismissive of it until somebody was like, no, we're allowed to like that now kind of thing. I'm like, oh, okay.
This song is good.
Yeah, exactly. Who
Dance,
doesn't
it's
like
a slap.
that?
You know, it
least
is.
it's slap.
It's funny to think that too because I think back to. I mean, I obviously love Justin Timberlake and NSYNC, but there was a moment where I was like, I have to pretend like I like this ironically. Otherwise,
You've talked about that, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, like you have, it's a joke, and then it becomes. There's that one time when you play it one more time where all your friends are like, "This isn't a joke anymore. We all just like this, and we're just cool with it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're all cool with it. All right, good. Yeah.
I feel like no matter how old you are, no matter what generation, there's a couple years around like it's middle school. It's really middle school where, or into high school even, where no matter what is cool, people are gonna make fun of you for it. And it's like, I remember there's a time like growing up with Pokemon, loving Pokemon, it hit a certain point where it's like, it's not cool to like Pokemon. But meanwhile, I'm like,
I'm always gonna.
and it took a couple years till I realized everyone else around me also did.
Yeah.
And then we were like, I remember it was like in 8th grade when Ruby and Sapphire came out, and we're all just like pulling out our Game Boys. I'm like, what were we doing the last couple years? Like trying to act way cooler than we are. So stupid. What are we trying to prove?
Yeah, I mean, the question I have is who propagates these sort of like ideals, right? Is it guys doing it to other guys, or is it guys thinking that that's what women's perception of them is supposed to be? And this is the thing I struggle with, because I mean, obviously that's a very broad question, but I mean, from your perspective, what do you think the answer is?
Well,
to
it's
that?
like it's interesting for me talking to younger women about like what they expect when they're dating now, because for me, like, as you know, I get men who express their feelings is what I always said I wanted, but I also kind of like expected the guy to kind of make the first move and was sort of like, and that does not seem to be the norm at all, and sort of, you know.
Well, now people communicate, from my understanding, directly just through phone. They don't even talk to
through
each other
my
before having
understanding,
sex.
this is how the kids
So
do
that's
things.
a way better idea. I just want everyone to know, way more streamlined.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because I think that women also, it wasn't just what men thought women wanted, it's what women thought they were supposed to want, and then they sort of, men responded to that as well, because women didn't know they could go after what they wanted also. They thought they needed to wait to be pursued.
That was always so interesting too, because when I do think back to when I was dating, and there was that perception of like, I forget what the old saying was, but there was like, you always wanted a woman who was like feigned being sort of like wanting to be chased after, but you wanted her to be aggressive sexually, right? You did respond to that level of confidence. So you
the hard to get
that's what I was
sex maniacs.
freaking the sheets. So I mean, but you would date, and there would be those incongruities, right? Where you would meet someone who was aggressive and had a little bit more of a masculine trait, right? Or had some of those masculine traits, and you were like, wait a minute, this is hot, like this is sexy. And that's one of the things I actually responded to with my wife, was that she was, I hate to use the term strong, independent woman, because that has even been kind of
Everything's getting co-opted. Yeah, exactly. You're allowed to say, take it back.
I mean,
Own it.
I met my wife, and she was no
take
bullshit.
it back, scumbag, too.
And I was blown away by how attractive that was to me. I was like, whoa, this woman, like, she's not taking my normal line of shit. Like, I'm throwing my game out, and she's like just batting it away like it's nothing. And there's something cool to that. And that ended up being the person that I chose to spend my life with, which tells me a lot. See, I don't know.
No, I mean, that was the same thing, right, with my wife. Like, she is the one who pursued, and I ignored the first two, like, hails. I totally ignored as just her but for me, it was that we were in the same industry, and it was that, you know, she was on, or is now again, but at the time was on, you know, AAA publisher. Like, people talk to you all the time, and the last thing in the world I ever wanted or want to do is misread that kind of signal.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, hey, you're flirting with me. Nope, I'm doing my job. Oh, crap, sorry. Now I look like a moron, and you're never going to work with us again. And you're always going to think I'm stupid, right? Yeah, you get cleansed. You know what I mean? Not that I would have been that aggressive. I don't think I would have.
Need to be.
but I mean,
That's, you get lumped into the bucket.
But that's what I think is really hard about right now, is that people want, I think myself, I look for like, what are the rules? Or is there a rule book? Is there something that this is the do's and don'ts of life? And that's just not the way it works, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's different. Every situation is different. And those situations can change from second to second, moment to moment, depending on the circumstances. Yeah. And so I think I really feel for a lot of younger guys that are coming up right now, and maybe potentially being either frustrated or confused with how to negotiate or navigate dating right now. Because I think that technology is not allowing them to have a ton of interpersonal connection with people, and so you don't really get that, like, oh, we're figuring this out, and I'm practicing talking to someone of the opposite sex. But also, I think there is an inherent fear that you're going to make a misstep someplace where you didn't even know that wasn't a thing. I mean, there are terms that are coming out every day to define the minutia of everyday life, or sexuality, or gender, or ethnicity, that I hear a new one every day, and I think to myself, if I go back a week ago, did I misspeak? Am I offending someone? You know, so I can't even imagine what that looks like if you're in high school or college or high school, where you're living your entire life online, and you have to paint this picture of yourself.
Yep. See, I disagree. I'm on the other side of that, where I feel like the cell phones and the constant texting, the Snapchat and all that stuff makes it easier for people to communicate, and because of that, like people are paying attention to having these conversations openly.
But you don't
It's
get tone
like
or
this-
subtext in those things,
But-
right?
but
I think
I
it's
mean-
easier for people to purposely misconstrue those.
I mean, I guess, but no matter what, you can go back in history, and it'd be different pros and cons for each various form of communication. But what I'm saying is like having Facebook, for example, like articles about Aziz Ansari, right? That sparks like a conversation, and like people are having the conversation when they weren't before, and it's like at the point where it's like, yeah, every week something new is happening. But I feel like it's never been easier for guys to know the rules if they just pay attention a little bit. If they just read and look into
a great
things,
point.
like they should know, like, hey, like it's not a thing of like, am I not allowed to do this? It's assume you're not allowed to do anything,
Right.
Until you know you are. You know, until you have a conversation, understand where you stand in that whole.
Well, I just feel
thing.
like it's such a different thing of the way it's getting expressed. I mean, and not even just this podcast, right? The fact that this conversation's happening and there's so many people watching or listening, and then it's happening on different forums and all stuff. And there was one that I thought encapsulated real well. I couldn't find it in time, sadly. But on Reddit recently, I was, scrolling through, and there was one like, what is something everybody should know about dating, and or what this stuff. And there was one in there, and it was an aunt talking about her nephew, and it was a story of, my nephew just got turned down by the girl he asked out or whatever, and she said, what you need to do now, right? And he goes, yeah, this everybody tells me, keep trying. And she's like, no, stop, it's over. And the kid was like taken aback by that and like hurt, but it's like, wow, what great advice. You know what I mean? I think about me in junior high and this girl I had a huge crush on and asked out 4 different times, right? Hoping that every few months the answer would change. No, I was a creep. Stop. What are you doing? It's over. Like, move on. Like, somebody should have stopped me and been like, I understand where you're at and I understand the feelings you're feeling. That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. You can't chase that. But nobody did, and it was totally normal. And I'm sure it was uncomfortable for that girl. And I was like, oh, man.
I feel like this is where a lot of media comes in, right? Because talking about the 80s movies.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
What was
yeah,
this?
yeah.
Always pursue. Yeah.
And then what happens at the end?
He gets her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've talked about this at length with a number of people, but I always find it fascinating that like how much movies shape our reality, right? And how much media is responsible for shaping the reality and vice versa. I like, for instance, the idea that any major problem in your life can be solved in under 2 hours is ridiculous, right? But that is what we get. And you would be remiss if you didn't think on some level that was shaping your subconscious of how you view things and how you attack problems. For the longest time, I had an issue with that where I would hold myself back because I would think, well, I would want to do the one thing that was going to catapult me to the next level, right? But that's not reality. Reality is it's a little grind over and over again, baby steps, everything you want to do toward achieving a goal, whatever that goal might be. I've gone off on a tangent there a little bit. I'll bring it back around, but
Something you're saying right here reminds me of a conversation me, you, and Gia were having 2 months ago or so about the movie Trainwreck with
Amy Schumer.
Amy Schumer.
that's an interesting example, by the way.
But
But I did not realize that there was a lot of negativity surrounding that
and
movie.
that's the thing is like I feel like that's such a perfect example of this conversation we're having where I feel like a lot of guys would look at that movie and be like, oh yeah, like look, it's a strong, independent woman and like she has the story and she's allowed to be sexual and all this stuff. But then Gia's like, fuck no, that movie sucked ass. Like the end of the story is she needed a man to fix her problems. She needed to not be a train wreck. She needed to stop going out and partying. She needed to stop. It's like,
But see, that's
no.
interesting. And again, how we view media, depending on what our circumstances are, that's not how I saw that. What I saw that was it was less about gender and more about age. I saw it as a person who was leaving their 20s and
In a
needed to
moment.
grow up.
Yeah.
Right? And I see that because I used to be that person and now I'm 38. And I look back on those days and I go, ugh. Like, the thought of going out right now and getting blasted, what is that? How does that resonate with you?
Makes me tired.
No, it's not gonna happen, right? There's Netflix to be watched. And so that's how I saw that. But it's interesting that Gia came in because she is, not that she's getting blotted every night, but she is like late 20s. And the idea of going out and having those nights is still enticing to her. And so I think she viewed that for, like, she was like, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's go over here. What's going on with her needing a doctor to make her happy?
Yeah.
It was just fascinating. That was an interesting conversation.
Okay, so I have a question for you as
Yes.
someone who was raised woke in San Francisco.
That is
and
Hashtag woke.
has
Good
been
way to put it.
feeling his feelings since
Yes,
birth.
yes.
So, like, what have you learned about, like, what's the way that you communicate when you're interested in someone? Like, how do you say words? Do you, like, just put it out there, or do you, like, what does that
I mean,
communication
it's
look
definitely
like?
been a learning process in my life. I made a lot of mistakes, and I feel like that's this whole thing is like going back and looking back, like, oh, I would have changed so many things, and things that were okay then are not okay now, or whatever. And like, I used to be a big grand gesture guy, and it's like I quickly learned. Not quickly learned. It's not the right way.
over the course of 10 years, maybe.
Over the course of 10 years, I learned, like, this is not the right way to handle this. And it's like, eventually it hit a point with the invention of AOL Instant Messenger, kind of priming me and teaching me how to communicate with people and like how we communicate in this day and age.
How to say a scary thing and not having to do it face to face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even then, I really feel like the art of the text message, it's about conversation. Like every relationship I've been in the last, like, in my adult life has started, maybe not started with text, it started with meeting people, whatever, but like it became a relationship because we just enjoy talking to each other. And it usually starts with text. Then I like phone calls. I know you don't like phone calls.
Hate phone calls.
Yeah, I like calling them as much as possible.
I love phone
But no,
That's
like,
old school.
like that's the thing is like then it hits a point where it goes from text to phone calls and we talk all the time, and then it's a lot of talking, a lot of communication.
I still love phone calls, by the way. I call my wife every chance I get just to let her know what's going on, and boy, she doesn't care. She does not. She cares in so much. It's like, it's great that you're alive, but you don't have to call me when you're on the way home from work every day.
She's like, I'm going to see you in 10 minutes. You could have just not done this.
Sometimes I'll call her, and I think it's hilarious to walk in while I'm still on the phone with her. She does not think that's funny. She's like, stop, you're just wasting minutes. I'm like, it's unlimited. Who cares?
I was going
But
to say, you're still on a minute plan?
The big thing with the texting and stuff is I feel that you shouldn't play games. It shouldn't be a wait 3 days to text. Do this. Do what you feel is right with the person. Like have that conversation. If you had a good night with somebody, text them. Let them know you had a good night. If you're thinking it, say it. And if they don't react well to it, back off. Don't keep trying.
Yeah, well, that was always, I mean, like, you know, being single as an adult and engaging in those first few dates with somebody was always, I felt, the most, like, freeing thing, especially coming out of long-term relationships where it was like, cool, I'm going to start and I'm just going to lay out some of my baggage and lay out where I'm at and what I'm thinking and feeling. And if that's not going to connect with you, I'm glad we're talking it out now. And I'm glad this ends after date 2 or whatever. And we don't have to get into something where, you know, a while from now I've been hiding my true self. Whereas now I'm like, you know, that's what I'm doing. Got a bunch of Superman crap here. What's going on?
No, but it is interesting when you start talking, going back to Tim's point of like you having to learn that, right? You obviously tend to surround yourself with people who are like-minded. If you get in an echo chamber very early of people who are like, no, keep going, keep trying, like that boils down to your point of like, what is your example of like modern masculinity? I don't know that there are too many of those, and hopefully people can find groups where they're like, yo, like, because there is a time when there might be a girl who's too timid to tell you that she likes you, and you might be too timid. There might be a time where trying again is actually the right thing, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing, but hopefully you have at least someone in your life who's like, let me make this decision for you. We're waving you off. You can't land here. This is done. She's being nice to you. Because I have friends today, even to this day, that are like, should I text that girl again? And I'm like, how many times have you text her? 3 times. Has she text you back? No. The answer is no.
You stop right there.
Pick up on that social cue that she doesn't want to. Don't make her say no to you. And it's the same with women, by the way. Don't make the guy say no to you. I don't want to keep painting this as like a guy thing, because I honestly do think there are so many more commonalities that we never address. That like being a good person should be kind of genderless, right?
Yeah.
We talk about, we always like to talk man versus woman and put them up against each other. Like, what does it take for a female to lead versus a man, and how are those perceptions? And I'm like, but ultimately I think back to people in my life that have inspired me, and the traits are what inspire me about them, not necessarily the fact that they're able to do that because of their gender or in spite of their gender. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But I do think the conquest thing is something boys and men are taught about more than girls.
And
Like,
from my
the chase.
perspective,
Yeah.
my perspective, that is a complete and total line of bullshit.
Really?
Yes, I grew up with that in mind, and it led me to make a lot of decisions that older Nick would not make now. Namely, the idea of having a number in your brain of like how many people you've had sex with. I put a large value in. I had a lot of importance that I was like, I have to. Not as a competitive thing, and when I met my wife, it wasn't like we were comparing numbers or anything like that, but there was some part of me that was like, as a single guy, you're supposed to be doing this stuff. And so, but as a single guy who wasn't particularly, attractive right off the bat, and didn't particularly have I look fantastic now, but like, when this is the other problem, when as a guy in your 20s, you're just getting
growing
started.
into yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't really even know who you are ever, let alone when you're just out of college.
What? I mean, you're
know?
totally right, and that's the thing of I remember when being young, in quotes or whatever, dating in your 20s and doing all the stuff where the number was such a big deal in college of thinking
Well,
about
like
it,
how many
about it.
times have you got? And this is the other thing. How many times have you like some girl maybe wanted to go home with you, or you could hook up with a girl, and you're like, I don't really want to do that. And then what does your friend call you?
Pussy.
Like, you fucking pussy.
You pussy.
Like, what are you gonna pussy out on that? You're like, I mean, I guess I'm
Pussy
not.
out on the pussy.
Exactly.
Can't do
like,
that.
Dude, it's so many pussies.
But it's like,
right in a row.
like as you get older, that just means you realize what bullshit is and it does. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think about like again, to where does that come from? Fucking like a definitive scene in Clerks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of how many dicks she sucked, and Dante's so wigged out
sucked
about
how many dicks?
37. I'm 37, and it's like. Who in your right mind would think? Now, I mean, like once it gets to a point, it's just like, cool. Are you like, do you have diseases? Am I gonna?
Yeah.
Are we either of us gonna make each other
Am I
sick?
gonna get
No,
shingles
fine.
from
What the
this?
fuck do
Is
I?
there going to be shingles from this?
It's now your fear.
No, but I mean,
boy for shingles.
And that's my other thing too, is guys, we have to recognize when we're doing that. I don't think that there are some circumstances where I think it's beneficial to have someone around you who's pushing you, right? I think that
To be brave. Yeah.
to be brave or to have courage or to get out of your comfort zone and attack fear, right? So you have to, it's hard to draw the line when you're on the fly of, am I going to be push this person to do this because I know it's going to be a great thing for them and they're just letting fear stop them? Or do they legitimately not want to do this?
Yeah.
All right. And that radiates everywhere. It's not just when in sexual relations, it's every single thing. It's trying to get a new job. It's trying to put yourself out there as internet people. It's trying to do even a funny tweet where you're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to say this thing that might be a little risque and I want to say it, but I'm scared to say it. Well, tell them, like, just fucking say it. What's the worst that can happen? You offend someone or something happens and you deal with the consequences, but that either way, there's growth in there someplace, right? And so for me, I don't think that I don't like calling people pussies, but I do think there is something for guys to be said for guys being like, hey, I'm going to push you to do this because I know you can.
Sure.
And I know that after you do it, you're going to be a broader, better person.
But that's that thing where there's the good version. There's the good, I'm wholesome and I'm helping you as a friend and a colleague
Sure.
and somebody I love.
I think they call it
Versus-
encouragement.
Yeah. Versus
that's the
you
term
being
they
As
use
an
opposed to
asshole.
shaming. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, of like I think I think when I always talk about it, on the heels of the Mizzou video, I mentioned it at the end, and it comes up. We talked about it in the vlog or whatever. But just the fact of like going to Mizzou, right, going from the suburbs of Chicago to the middle of Missouri, and being around a bunch of country people, I think it could have easily you'd have the perception just hearing that on paper that it would be more small-minded or it would make me more harsh, right? But like I look back at who I was coming into Mizzou, and like I was such an asshole. I was such a kid, like I mean, I always talk about with Poe, right? Everybody's heard about Poe, my best friend. Poe. I know you know him well. But best friend from Chicago,
We'll probably call
right?
him at some point during this show.
That happens
Oh,
a
I
lot.
wonder what
then
Poe
then
thinks.
What was it? Oh, he hadn't seen Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I was like, "Fuck you, pussy," and hung up. No, I didn't say.
Yeah.
Pussy. But it was like coming in from college, like or from high school into college, like I was so me and Poe were friends then. We're friends now, obviously. But I was so mean because I was like out to make the other friends laugh, and I was doing so much like mean stuff without ever like showing that I loved him, right? And so then to go to Mizzou and find like the Antlers, who are a group of people who are, mean and like funny, but funny mean. And then the way we treated each other and the way the Hayes family accepted me and all this stuff to teach me to be a better person and to teach me how to joke around with somebody, but then also be there for them, right? And not be afraid to cry and what family is and how these relationships work. And like the fact that I left there like such a better person than I came in is always what astounds me a lot about my education, but also about the group of primarily men I surrounded myself with. That we were all like this weird Animal House, not frat. That what like you think of a frat experience, usually it's hazing and bleach and fucking pounding on each other. Where this was like real, like, hey, we're gonna do this cool thing. Do you want to come, person who knows no one, and we're gonna hang out and we're gonna do this, and we have all these friends, and here's another group, and here's how we interact with girls and stuff. And sure, there's college guy stuff in there. We'll take that girl home, whatever. But like that's just people being people and growing up the same way I did.
Yeah, IGN was my experience for that.
Sure.
And this conversation's interesting because I do feel like with Nick is kind of my like Papa
Obi-Wan.
Bird. I don't know, my Obi-Wan in a lot of ways. I feel like I met you like right. I first got to know you when you were engaged to Danielle, and so I was kind of there through the whole experience. You getting married and all that stuff. And I feel like you being where you were at in your life with your wife, like really changed your mentality. And I feel like you had to rapidly grow up during that time period, which is right when I was going through a really pivotal like growth period. So I feel like I'm super lucky that I got to jumpstart my growth as a man and like what I want to be to a partner. And I think I have to thank you for that. But it's like I also have to thank Danielle. Like I feel like
you got to thank her a lot more than
she
me.
raised a good man.
I don't know the guy I'd be without her. I don't think I'd like that person. I think I see some of my friends who remain single at 38, and I think you're wasting away. Like you've wasted 10 years of potential of growth with someone else. But yeah, no, it was interesting because you were the first person that came in that I saw myself in, because you came in roughly at the same age as that organization that I did when I started.
Yeah,
and I
22.
always thought to myself, like, one of the key aspects I think that a lot of people should find out there is someone, not that I was a mentor to you, but the idea of me getting the opportunity to have you learn from any of my past mistakes was a huge thing for me. I was like, holy shit, there's actually someone who asked me what I thought of this
This is
thing.
valuable.
Yeah,
wisdom.
and like he's getting value not out of my successes, because I don't think I didn't really teach you a lot of things like how to succeed, but I did. I was like,
I taught you that.
you did, but I was like, hey, don't do this. I don't know a lot, but I know what not to do, and don't do this. And that was a tremendously special relationship for me, and it's one that I've gone forth since and tried to look for with other people.
Well, I mean,
let me at least tell you what not to do. So
That's
you
the
can avoid some
power of
pitfalls.
this show, right?
Yeah.
And the shows we do. Maybe not the morning show, because now we just scream and be idiots. But like, we had a good one today.
Shenanigans.
We had a good- watch the one about grandma, the
catharsis.
dirty words grandma can't say. But like on this one in particular, like it is of like, hey, here's all the mistakes we've made.
It's a much
right?
better headline, by the way. We should change it to that.
What did you call it?
I called it "How many dirty words does your grandma know?"
Anyways, but I mean, like here it is. We get to talk to an audience that, in a lot of ways, doesn't have the experience we do, so they get to learn from our mistakes or our successes.
Yeah, but I think that is very true. Like that is an opportunity that we get all the time. Where that's the fun part about the podcast medium is we can go as long as we want, and this is not a show that's organized. We can Google something right now. Like
Yeah.
how many
Google?
how many times do you watch CNN or MSNBC or I mean I'm going to go out on a limb and say you don't watch a lot of Fox. How many times are you watching these news shows and you're like, why are these people putting on this air of superiority and authority when clearly they had 20 people researching
It's getting
this
pumped
stuff?
into their
Yeah.
ear.
Yeah,
their
like there's
teleprompter.
like 30 people back there. I'm sorry for making that assumption. Maybe you are a huge Fox. And
I don't
friends.
watch cable news myself.
well, that's probably
I
smart.
listen to public radio.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're very smart. But you look at these and it's like our whole reality is shaped by this like man or woman behind a desk and prim and proper in clothes that I would not wear on a daily basis. And they're supposed to know all these things. And I'm like, isn't it way cooler to see the person you look up to not know something?
Yeah.
And go, Kevin, can you Google that thing real quick? And then we discover it together. That means that we're all capable of being wrong and right at
Yeah.
the same time. We're all fallible creatures,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
That's reality. That's not this bullshit make believe I'm gonna get a gun and fight all these guys off to save my wife who's a damsel in distress. It's I don't really know the answer to that. Let's figure it out together.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what we get to do every day. We always talk about like when like people are always like, oh, when are you guys gonna when do you think Greg's gonna get too big to leave Kind of Funny? And I'm like, it's not gonna happen because we get this tremendous opportunity to make this whatever we want to make it. Now, if he gets too big, I'll end you.
You'll take me
I will
out.
fucking take you out. I'll get that commando
You'll
gun.
take
and
your little
you out.
vial of shingles and whoosh, I'm down. I'm down. It's over.
But here's my question for you. How do you view competition, right?
Ooh,
Because I think that's where it starts with a lot of guys, right? Is your dad was competitive someplace. They put you in that sport or a sport very early on, and that forms and shapes your reality of kill or be killed, sink or swim. For example, as an example, I've recently started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again after a long time off. And one of the things that I find absolutely fascinating is there's a communal sense to what we do. Dads bring the kids into the kids' classes. They watch, they coach the kids. Moms are there too if they're training as well. They're watching the kids. And then they go on, the kids go over, play together, and then the dads train. And so there is this aspect of like, I'm teaching you this thing, but with jiu-jitsu, it's literally one-on-one. Either I break your arm or I strangle you. And that's a very outrageous, violent version of, we call it tapping. If I tap you or you tap me,
Yeah.
but that is something that I think has a lot of pros, but also a lot of cons to it.
yeah.
I don't know what your perspective is. on
I
that.
think, well, as a woman, I am a very competitive person. I'm a middle child, and I also am a Virgo, which I think means I'm
I don't know.
extra.
See, I was gonna say, when we
For
made the
some
joke about
reason,
me
I'm
being
really
born
hard
in
to play
January.
Scrabble with.
Yeah,
For
okay.
some reason, I'm really insufferable because I don't like to lose. And as a that's not a quality that I feel like. That's a quality I had to learn to like accept and lean into. That's a part of me that I like. I like to win. I'm ambitious,
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, like you can pair that with not being a jerk and like you compete in certain realms, but you also try to be kind and a good teammate in
Sure.
other situations. But
Like the hit movie Game Night.
yes.
About this.
Was it a
Yes.
hit? Was it a hit?
Game Night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta go back and watch
Incredulous
that.
about it. All right, I'm just asking.
Tim's a
Oh,
huge Game Night
your
fan.
your question sounded incredulous.
I just want to know how much they're paying you because you seem to work game night into every podcast.
Game Night's
John.
fantastic.
All right, well,
Hey, if they're
But
paying him, they're paying us. So let
I
him do
feel
it.
like competitiveness is like a positive. It's a traditionally masculine trait.
Yeah,
but
that's why
I
I
feel
asked.
like it's sort of like it raises the level of everybody when you think like, I'm going to try to be excellent, and I hope you can try to be excellent too. So that's like great if you can do it in a way that's not abusive or, you know, beating the little guy just because you can
Right.
and dominating. You know, it's like competing is like, how do we make each other better?
Right.
We were just talking about this today at lunch, but and to take this back to Pokemon, because I always bring Pokemon up at least 3 times a podcast.
All roads lead to Pokemon.
That when I was 8 years old, I played Pokemon, and it taught me the word rival. And I thought it was so interesting. Like something about it, I was just like, oh, this is cool. Like he's not a bad guy. He's just your competition. And like I totally took that into real life. And I've said the story before, but it fits here. Like me and my friend group early on, we all met when we were like 11. Like we all were like same minded, and we're just like, hey, we're gonna try to be better than each other, but not in a fuck you way. In a hey, this time I'm better than you, but next time you're better than me. And like I feel like we just kept growing that way.
Right.
And once we added partners into our lives, like they're similar as well. And like it's just a very positive thing as we all just kind of rise together.
Yeah, it's very weird because like this is obviously starting something as intense as like wrestling when you're 38. It's not recommended, but at all, especially just from the urgent care bills alone, it's not recommended. But I have noticed a tremendously positive thing come out of it, in that I had always, even in our Let's Plays, I was like, I'm just going to be the funny guy and shy away from actually trying to put up a fight because the idea of competition is just not where I want to be. Then I kind of, in order to progress in this sport, I've had to go and do a couple in-house tournaments, and you're kind of rewarded for actually being able to do the thing against a real opponent. And from that, just the level of my ability to deal with anxiety has increased so much.
Confidence.
And it's made me, it's a confidence, but it's also the knowledge of like, you know, unless it's a cataclysmic thing, you're going to be okay. Even if you lose, you're going to be okay. There's going to be another day. Yeah. And the idea behind that of like, it's just kind of made everything a little less amped up. And I can go in, and I think it's made me a better person because I'm, instead of being like, everything matters so much, I'm like,
That's interesting because the competitiveness, it like that brings in like that losing is a valuable thing because you realize you can be resilient after you lose.
Well, people use the word failure, and I don't. I really wish we could come up with a better term for that when it comes to a process, because they're in. You know,
who is it? Somebody's got a quote right that I never failed. Those are just the times I didn't succeed.
Yeah, I didn't succeed.
Yeah.
And I love that because with a sport like jiu-jitsu, or even even so far as like I've also been doing stand-up comedy, which by the way, remind me about that because you were talking about the idea of giving each other shit, and it is on a different level when you're around comics, because they're not only giving you shit because they think that's what they're supposed to do, but they're doing it because for so many different unique reasons.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating and horrifying all at the same time.
It's scary.
It's
Yeah.
very scary, but it's also fascinating because it's part of the process, right? It's testing people's limits and their boundaries. And that's kind of the power of stand-up comedy, is you're supposed to actually be able to do that. So I'm torn on it. Or on one, I've never been the kind of person who likes to give people shit, even though I sometimes I do. Mostly Kevin.
You agree with that, Kevin?
I only give Kevin shit when Kevin gives me shit. No. It's still negative. No, Kevin, when we... That's a lot. No. He's playing it up for you because you're here. He's no, but on you know, I've never been one to respond to that as sort of a positive tool. But then you got a comedy, and you're like, there's something like kind of crazily good about this, where you're saying that we can't talk about that specific subject, but the idea of comedy, the idea of stand-up is there's supposed to be nothing taboo about it. So if you're willfully submitting to that, where is that line of what is acceptable to you versus what is acceptable? I say there's no definition for it. I'm just saying it's a fascinating like use case scenario of like watching people in this tiny little ecosystem who are kind of allowed to do whatever they want, but not really, because there's still social mores that apply to it. It's very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. You should come out if you ever want to see it.
Do the women do it in the same way as the men?
Yes and no.
Give each other shit? Yeah.
Yes and no. I've noticed that just from our small community that we have in San Francisco, a lot of the women, I don't know if they do this on purpose or if it's just kind of what happens, but they tend to stick together even when they're sitting. There'll be like clumps of women. Like when we go to like comedy clubs or I go to the Punchline every Sunday for an SF showcase. We go and wait, and you get picked sometimes to go up and sometimes not. But I'll notice there are, I don't want to say cliques because that paints it negatively.
Clicks is better than clump, though.
We got a clump of women over there moving in from the north.
Fair point. There will be
like cottage cheese. That's what I'm picturing.
I think people I think they sort of group together in that way, and I don't know if it's because it's like, hey, we're just like-minded people and we enjoy being around each other, or it's like, oh my god, the guys are so insufferable that, and it's very fascinating because you see like one of the interesting things about doing stand-up is that it's not like performing to a camera. We have no idea how people are reacting to this. We have no idea if people are even listening to this. I mean, I'm gonna go out and say this is one of our best episodes yet, but we don't know, right? But with stand-up, if I make a joke about my wife that paints females in a bad light, I can literally look at your eyes and see how you react to that. And I'll see that. And I'll see some women, and maybe, again, I'm bringing this, I don't know what people are thinking, but I'm just picking up on people's, nonverbal communication. But I'll look and I'll see a little bit of an eye roll sometimes of like, fuck, this guy is just going to say another joke about a pussy, and that's what it's going to fucking be.
Here's the question I have for you.
And then sometimes people just laugh.
Do you find, and this is totally, I think, our own mindsets, where we're from, what we were raised with. Do you find the female comics to be more shocking, more shock value at times? I know this is a broad stroke, but from what you've seen in your open mic careers,
I think that there is some people think, and I'm starting to, I see the perspective that being outrageous in any way you can is a good way to get notoriety, and I think that's on both sides, right?
Okay.
I think you can use as a tool the other as a mechanism to get that outrage out, right? So for a woman, yes, I think that there is something to be said for a woman saying, I'm going to over-sexualize something. I'm going to talk about myself in a way that I would hear a guy talk about, because the guys are going to get that. And the women, potentially maybe the women are going to think that's the right way to do it, right? Yep. It's going to get a laugh. And you see that a lot. You see that a lot as in mainstream female comics right now. Amy Schumer, Ali Wong, they all talk like, if you were to put it in terms of like a 1940s person talking, they're like, you talk like a sailor, right? Like you have that a sailor's mouth, right? Like, where in reality, they're just, you can talk however you want. But the people I respond to are the ones that realize they're doing it and put a little extra spin on it, have a little extra commentary.
Michelle Wolf.
Make you think, hey, I'm doing, Michelle Wolf's a perfect example,
It's a perfect example because like
you lean into the joke,
Wong
but then you
is
also,
I get it. Like it's a lot of the stuff is not jokes.
Right.
You're just saying something nasty.
Sure.
Whereas Michelle Wolf saying something nasty with a context and a reason to say something, and then there's a punchline.
But these are all like, and not to say that comics are artists in any way, shape, or form, because a lot of us are just tremendously broken human beings. But these are just tools in the tool chest, right? These are all things you can do to sculpt whatever that experience you want, and it's unique for every single person, right? If I do a set and you do a set, I want that, and that was actually one of the interesting things of doing this is I did a set at Cobb's Comedy Club. And it was a pretty diverse lineup. And my wife was like, thank God. And I hadn't realized that before, but she had seen me perform a lot of times. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I'm glad they had some women, and I'm glad there were some minorities and people of color. Like, because if you just listen to white guy after white guy after white guy,
how many times can I hear about your
Tinder,
Uber?
my dick, my Uber, like that's it, right? Because you write what you know. I can't write from the perspective of anyone other than myself. I could try, but it'll be hilarious.
And see, that drives my question, I think, from my personal experience. I went to an open mic with you, or for you. You went to another open mic, but I stuck around with Tim and Gia and Cool Greg. And a woman got up. I forget what her name was. She was another open mic comic. But she got up, and her thing was about like her third abortion and this, and not like in her kid. And it was very much like, I remember, I've seen so many other male comics go up around you, right? And don't remember anything they've said, because it is in a way the same thing, right? Just a different shade to it in terms of what that person's talking about. But this woman got up there and did it. And it's that thing of, wow, it wasn't that the jokes were better. It was just that, wow, I've never heard a female comic talk about abortions like that, right?
Man. You need to go to more Nick shows. Yeah, it's literally
that's
50% of the shows.
That's honestly one of the hardest things, though, is that how do you differentiate yourself? And I think to your question earlier of like, do you feel like I do feel like people as a tool or as a general rule are thinking like, what's the next boundary that I can push?
Well, that's my problem with a lot of Nick shows. Like even on the men's side, I feel like, yeah, okay, the women's side is like, oh, talking about sex is crazy. But I feel like in San Francisco, the crazy thing is to go up on stage and say, who here fucking hates the gays?
Yeah,
and I've
there
seen
are some
people
guys that try to do that.
And I'm like, You're just going for this shock value. Like, it is the shock to get people listening,
Yeah.
and you'll remember that guy. And then they go on and start telling some other bad jokes.
Yeah, and then that's the thing too. Is as a general rule, if anyone's thinking about doing stand up, don't use that as your opener. And if you do use that as your opener, there better be a really fucking clever thing you say right after that. Otherwise, your people are just gonna be like, okay, you're just being discriminatory against gay people, and I think that's great. There was a time and a place for that. It was called the '80s, and that comic was called Andrew Dice Clay. Or Sam Kinison. They both would say things like that, and actually Eddie Murphy to a degree did that too, and they all got tremendous backlash.
It's now 30 minutes of you listing all these 80 comedians.
No, I mean,
who did it.
but we talk about
The
going
problem
back.
of the 80s, yet again.
But we talk about
reprise.
progressivism, right? And that could be perfectly seen in stand up. In that Eddie Murphy, go back and watch. It's on Netflix. Go back and watch Raw. Go back and watch Delirious. He says the word faggot so many times, and he says it as the punchline. These faggots do this, they do this, they do this, and people are laughing. It's thousands of people laughing. And so as a 4-year-old, me watching that, first off, what's up,
Why
Mom?
Elena Scarpino, what were you doing?
I was like, he needs to learn. No, I don't think she let me watch it. I think I watched it when I was a little older.
Sure, yeah,
but
yeah.
at some point, I did come across that, and I was like, okay, well, that's what
course.
funny is, right? That's And again, I don't think that there should be any subject that is taboo in comedy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're going to broach that topic, you better do it in a way that if it's going to be for shock value, it needs to be really funny. And if it's going to be as a joke, it needs to have some level of layered commentary to it or some satire to it that you can back up, if that makes sense. Because if not, you're just throwing out.
The punchline thing's interesting. When that is the punchline, it's like, that better be a really funny joke
That'd be
then.
fucking
Otherwise,
hilarious,
it's like, because
man.
that is the statement you're making.
Yeah.
Like, that is the commentary is.
But like a perfect example is Anthony Jeselnik, right? He says ridiculous things, but his whole set is that, and you understand
There's a point to it.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Okay. He's not that guy. This is an act that he's doing. That he's doing this to test you. Oh, you laughed. Right. What does that say about you?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool, fascinating thing. It might say you're a terrible person, but at least you know that, right? I laughed at a terrible joke about him wanting to kill his girlfriend or something like that. Like, what is there's something in there that you can explore. But I think a lot of comics, especially when they're first starting out, I'm gonna I don't know. I haven't built this sort of arsenal or this skill set yet. So I just have the basis level of comedy, which is like, let's say this horrible
Screaming
thing.
the F word really loud.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of a lot of people just rely on fuck.
Well, I just want to go back to, Greg, what you were saying about Mizzou. And it was really interesting to me that you said from high school to college, what you learned how to do with your friends was to like make jokes and be funny, but not be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like you somehow learned how to be funny and be loving at the same time.
Sure.
And that didn't mean you were less funny. It just meant that you like knew how to have camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like
I
a
want Kevin
thing.
to yell at me. Kevin yells at me.
Well,
Sorry, this is Mike.
I think that that's like an interesting thing. Like for me, even when I'm watching stand up, it's like, do you have that glint in your eye when I can tell that you have like a golden heart, or are you just raging in a way that like is not adding any delight or joy in the world,
Right.
you know? Like, so, and I think that it's interesting to hear how you learned how to do that. Cause I think so often when you realize you're funny, you're just like, how do I get the next joke? How do I get the next joke?
Exactly.
And then you're
The-
like, oh, there's a cost if it's a certain kind of
taking
humor.
down one of your friends in the group of friends because the group is laughing, but you continue to egg on one person to go after one person, and you don't know when to pump the brakes, right? And I mean, like,
That's bullying.
that's
yeah.
exactly, and that's something we, as Kind of Funny, I think we're way better now, but have struggled with in general, where we've come up with a safe word, like for real, when
is it?
pickle.
Oh.
Right,
I
think it's pickles, yeah.
Whatever. Okay, if I
Which, by
say
the way,
pickle out of the blue.
incredibly hard to work into a conversation.
But the thing about it is,
Just what I would know. You have to stop and say pickle. You might as well say stop. I'm getting
You
offended.
think-
But I
I'm
mean, like
pregnant,
that.
I'm
But
craving
see, this goes
pickles.
back to the
Yeah.
point of it too. The big point. The point of it too is that, I mean, our content is us being authentic and being friends and being together all the time. I think pickles is just the shorthand for it.
Yeah,
I don't. I remember the last time it happened where I almost said it. I was like, why didn't you? Like, I couldn't work it. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need to work the safe word into a conversation.
Man, I really want pickles for lunch
if you
today.
worked it into the conversation, no one would stop.
Yeah.
We wouldn't understand. It needs to be a,
That's
hey,
really
stop,
funny.
you're hurting my feelings, hey, which is fine to say. But, because that's the thing is, I think when it does go too far, it's usually legitimately because we don't know you're going to. You know, when I bite Kevin's head off in the morning, he doesn't know that it's because 13 things have already gone wrong, and now this is going wrong, and he's coming in trying to talk about comics, and I'm mad about whatever, you know. And it's like when that last time it went too far with you, it wasn't that anybody was trying to be mean. It was that
I was just tired.
It seemed like it seemed like everybody was in on the same. We're on the same page, improving, joking. That's great. And when it clearly wasn't, we're like, all right, stop, go, leave the room.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there is that distinction, and I think, you know, that you have to draw between, like, are we playing off each other? Is there a commonality to this? Am I the butt of the joke now, but then Tim's going to be? Is that a like an understood thing?
Yeah.
Or are we just fucking with you for no reason because I feel like being mean to someone right now?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, you see that a lot. You see that a lot with just responses everywhere, right? You see it on Twitter, you see it on YouTube, you see it in comment sections where you're just like, hey, you guys did a great job. You guys did a great job. You guys are shit. And it's like, you just want to rage against someone
Just
right
write
now.
pickles. Just
Yeah.
now everyone's on the safe word.
But I think that's a perfect example of, like, I mean, what you see online, how people choose to interact is people are choosing, they're oftentimes outraged for the right reasons, right? Because there are outrageous things happening. But then there are people who just want to take the piss out of you because, and fill in the blank. Are they having a bad day? Are they not happy with the way their life's going? Is that just what's going on? And when you look at the cause of you bring up the term bullying, which is something that really does need to be addressed, that's generally where that stems from, right? Is something happened to that person, right? Rage for guys, anger for guys is a secondary emotion, right? Anger usually is what we use to mask fear or insecurity on some level, right? Like, and then we always talk about that. When I get really mad, I've built these tools now, thanks largely to my wife, where I think to myself, like, what is it that's at the root of this? Oh, you know what? I'm just kind of scared about the tournament I have on Saturday, or I'm overworked because I'm overwhelmed and I don't know how to express that. So I'm going to express that by bending the world to my will, which never goes the way I want it to go, ever. It never works that way. And so I think just that realization of, like, that was, someone told me that a long time ago. They were talking about fear and how guys react and why they react to that. And that was very eye-opening for me, where I was like, I should learn to express myself, or not even express myself, just recognize what's happening in my own head before it comes out of my mouth. That's a very hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of trying. And I get it wrong sometimes, but it's important.
No, I get it wrong all the time too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think, you know, has been interesting with Jen and being married and having her around all the time, is the fact of, I'm feeling something and I don't fully understand it. Why not just express that to her? You know what I mean? Rather than sit on it and, like, let it go quiet, go angry, go whatever, while I try to figure it out on my own, which then reads to her that I'm mad at her, upset with her about something she did, which is never the case. Why not express, like, hey, full stop on what we're doing. We're having a normal conversation about something else. This is what's happening inside of me right now, and I need to talk to you about that. And that's new for me in a relationship, right? But I mean, I think it's just because of, this is what we signed up for, right?
I mean, there's so many examples of that. But the first time I did that Cobb show, right, I was tremendously tremendous.
The big one, where
the
we
big
all
one,
went to,
right?
yeah, okay.
This was a big deal for me as a comic to be able to perform at a big club like that, right? And it was a great show, great lineup. I was super nervous about it, and I didn't realize how wound up I was until I asked my wife. I asked my wife if I looked okay with my pant cuff folded over my boot. You know, you wear a boot, and as a Eugene, you fold up. And she was like, no, I don't really like that. And I snapped at her. I was like, why do you have to phrase it like that? And what the fuck do you not know? And the next words out of my mouth were, do you not know how much pressure I'm under right now? Which I was like, oh, fuck. Like, of course. I'm like, I'm buckling under this, and I'm just looking for a scapegoat of someone to just scream at for a second for that quick flash of catharsis, and then I can go about my day. And my wife did not respond well to that. She was like, I am not having that. You cannot, like, she's like, don't fucking ask me if you don't want the opinion. And then I cooled down. I was like, I'm sorry. I think I'm just really wound up for this. She's like, I know you are, but, like, come on, you can't act like that. And so I think that's a thing too that I think we have to all wrap our heads around, is that the thing I find fascinating is guys, like, just bring it back to your original topic of, like, men in Hollywood and things like that. You look at a guy like Louis C.K., right, who went out there and did horrible things. And the question is, and this is more probably a question for the group, is like, how is there a way to come back from that? Is there a legitimate way where you can admit that you've done something wrong and have people forgive you and still move forward as a public figure? Or is it just burn him to the ground, he's done, we got to go on?
I think it's a yes and no. I feel like you'll never get everybody back. It's impossible to get everyone back. But if you're honest and you are trying your best to make the situation better, and it's not just an empty apology of words, but it's an apology with actions on top of it. I feel like, yeah, there will be people that will forgive him, but then there'll be people that won't. But it's like going on stage and making a joke that's going to offend people. Some people are going to be offended, some people aren't.
Sure.
And there isn't rules to it, but people are allowed to make judgments. People are allowed to not forgive him, even if he fixes everything. People are allowed to forgive him if he fixes nothing. You know?
Yeah.
What's your perspective
My
on that?
personal opinion,
Yeah.
personal about
Burn it
Louis
to the
C.K. is I have loved Louis C.K.
Yeah.
and I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
And I like heard the rumors, but I didn't really like let them be true until, I just kind of, you hear it on the internet. And even when he did the first acknowledgement, when he was backed into the corner by the New York Times and finally admitted it, I was like, oh, he's doing his Louis C.K. I'm just going to like say this is what happened. And I, made mistakes with my penis and da-da-da-da. That's really honest and refreshing. And then it like the waves of realizing that he knew he had done this abusive behavior and these women were pressured to not talk about it. Mm-hmm. They were bullied. They were kind of like, they had their power taken away from him when he was the abuser in that situation. Mm-hmm. And so now when I just saw him in an episode of Portlandia and I was like, oh, that's the Louis that I used to love. Yeah. And I just don't see him as a man of integrity. And that's what he was to me, was like, he's the honest guy who like understands human nature. And to know that he was that sort of, I don't know this root of it, but I kind of just don't enjoy seeing him now.
Can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's such a wide chasm between, and like on both sides are I fucked up. And it's, hey, everybody, I fucked up. I'm sorry. Here's what I did. Here's what it is, blah, 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 versus, oh shit, people are calling me on this. Yeah. Now I need to follow my sword. And that's what you continue to see in all sorts of forms of entertainment everywhere, of people who are doing Me Too or Time's Up and like are fucking up and not saying anything about it until it's way too late. And like Louis knew what he was doing was wrong. You know what I mean? Like Matt Lauer knew putting a fucking weird ass button under his desk.
Matt Lauer for sure knew.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like this is like a surprise.
And you plan that shit.
And that's why a long time ago in this episode we brought up like the Aziz Ansari thing, where it was like one of those things of she said that and then he immediately comes out and he's like, whoa, like here's this and it is this weird thing of like, well, I didn't mean to pressure, but that's how it was going. And like so much of this is gray, totally. And that's what sucks is that it's so rarely black and white, and when it's black and white, it's like, holy shit, that is black and white. Yeah, don't fucking do that.
It's horrifying.
So we keep talking about how the conversation's important with all this stuff. Months ago, there was this short story that came out called Cat Person, and I wanted to do it as a topic on the show, but it just got away from us, and we didn't do it. And unlike
what did you think about Cat
that we
Person?
do in this show, I actually wanted us to prepare for it, read it, do research, and not just talk out of our ass.
What is Cat Person?
It's a short story that
this tangerine one smells like medicine I used to take.
I honestly don't even want to talk about what it is. Like I just recommend people read it. It's a 15-minute read, and you think you know where it's going, and then by the time it ends, like I'm going to be honest, and without giving any story beats or stuff, as I'm reading it,
we can spoil kind of the overarching tone of what it is.
I mean, the idea of it is it's a woman in college that is experiencing dating a guy. Like that's the top level.
Yeah.
And it ends up not going well, but maybe not for the reasons you think. But as I'm reading it, it's like there was a
she's a cat. A woman trapped in a cat's body.
There was a defensiveness in me of wanting to stand up for the guy. And that's just kind of my gut instinct of being like, it's not that bad. And it's a very similar situation to the Aziz Ansari thing, where I'm like, well, but what about? Well, she said yes to this. Yeah. And they're like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like it's like you start doing all that. And as I kept reading it, I still felt that. And then it's not until the end when I was really thinking about it, I was like, fuck, man, there is a problem here. Yeah. And there's a problem that I get so defensive immediately from this.
Oh no, dude, there's a perfect example of when the whole Louis C.K. thing is where I bring this up is after that stuff dropped, after it really dropped, where it was like, oh shit, okay, this guy's he's gone. He's this is not a good situation. He's done some terrible things here. I had a conversation with another male comedian in front of a female comedian, and I was like, I said, I matter of factly, but I know if I'm being honest, it came from a place of like defense, right? Of like defending the guy or whatever. I was like, I think Louis will beat back. I was like, I think he can go away
and I think he can work on himself. I honestly believe he can. I think he's a smart enough guy and a creative enough guy to find a way to make this a meaningful thing back to his audience and come back into the public spectrum. That's not how I phrased it, though. Even that was not very good. But I was like, oh, I think
You
he's
like
come
these
back.
chicks are pussies.
No. Well, it doesn't help that all the other comedians were like trying to do the exact same thing of like bro defending. And this one female comedian heard me say that, and I saw her internalize it for a second, and she went up on stage and fucking ripped me apart. Like just talking right to me. And she was like, this fucking guy thinks Louis can come back. Why don't I lock you in a fucking room and have a bunch of people come masturbate all over you? Yada, yada, yada. Like, what the fuck do you think? Like, it was shocking to me. And I was legitimately like shook by it to the point where I had to go home. And it was an interesting experience because I was like, I half-cocked defended a guy. And because I've put myself in this situation where there are a lot of different people, I could hear their different ideas, which is the good thing about doing comedy. Like, I heard something that maybe I didn't like, and someone didn't like something about me, and so it's just a very interesting process.
It is
a different thing that happened to me
with the cat person thing. Reading, I read it. My girlfriend Gia read it, and she obviously is the one that put it in front of me in the first place. I mean, it was crazy. She ended up like this woman ended up getting like not a Netflix deal, but like book
Huge
deals
book deal
from this thing. And
Yeah.
it was like it started from a Twitter post. But we both read it, and we've had at least 10 different conversations about it. We've had like at least 5 conversations about it.
Yeah.
But within those 10 conversations, I swear every single time we talk about it, I'm fighting for a different side. And it's just like, because I do, like, it is the, like, is he wrong? Is he right? Whatever. And it's just like, I think there's just such value in that of just understanding that there is such nuance to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And for you to bring up Louis and him coming back and for someone to get mad at you for that, it's like, is that worth getting mad at?
Well, but I think I can't talk for everyone or speak to everyone, but I think I like to try and make order out of the chaos of the world. But I think oftentimes that might not be the best way to do it. I think where the real growth is in that chaos, is in that gray area where you're fighting each other's ideals or trying to figure out what someone else's perspective is. I think my first instinct is to say, like, there's so much crazy shit happening in the world that I don't understand, that like I just need this one thing to be the way I think it's supposed to be.
Well, I want to go back to cat person, because I think what the main cat person breakdown is, it's not like, did the guy do the right or wrong thing, because it was an interaction. And to the women out there, ladies, I also think it's a call for women to learn how to communicate more clearly about what they want to do and not do. Because if we're not just going to be pursued by men, we've got to learn how to have the words to say, I don't want to have sex with you tonight. Or, Aziz, take me home.
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I'm gonna
Stop touching my clothes. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm going to leave this apartment. Not that like women who are victimized are somehow deserving of it, but I think it's this moment is like requiring all of us to lift our game about how to be more direct about
And be super
what
honest
feels
with
right.
each other,
yeah.
right? And that's the big
And
part
also,
about
when
it.
you want to have sex, say you want to have sex.
God, please say it.
You know, just say it.
The guy will go, okay, cool. Like 9 out of 10 times. It's easy. But that's very true. And that's the thing too, is like, I think that I don't like the current climate that I feel like people are being pitted against each other, because I feel like there are so many different traits that are supposed to be quote unquote male and quote unquote female that we should both have. If I think of my ideal human being, it's a person who is confident, who goes after what they want, but is also compassionate and is also funny and is also kind and is also willing to sacrifice for the goodness of their family, but also fight for their family. And if whatever you just visualize in your brain, male or female, doesn't matter. And so I think that's the power. I think we're going to look back on this, at least my hope is 20 years from now, and be like, damn, like we made some fucking awesome people out of that. Some people were, we shed some light on some hideous fucking monsters, but in doing so, real good came out of it. And we have affected some sort of real social change.
I think it's a generational thing, and we'll get back to that. Early on, you asked who I thought embodied masculinity in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
And who I think is a male role model. I'm going to stick with it. You know where I'm going, obviously.
Of course I do.
But I'm not going to do it for the reasons I think a lot of people would. I'm going to say The Rock. And I don't say The Rock because he's obviously gorgeous and built and awesome. I mean, not gorgeous and built. It's because he's awesome. And I feel that The Rock is setting such an interesting and real standard for it, right? Where it is, his Instagram is ads and deals and him working out, of course, but then there are so many heartfelt things that I think we take for granted that our businesses of being authentic and me talking about cancer or my divorce or this struggle or that struggle, him coming out and talking about his struggles coming up and being poor and being a bad person and how he's grown into a better person and what his mom means and when he did cry and the birth of his daughters and the photos of them and saving his, like the crazy things The Rock gets into of saving his dog from the water and one still dies and all those horrible things, but it's also good and it's also, he's what we're talking about, right? Of here are all my successes and here are all my failures, and I'm putting them together to show you not only what a man should be, can be, not only what a well-rounded man should be, but also like I think, hey, I am this buff, strong dude. I am this guy who works out all the time, but I can also be soft and sensitive and funny. Hey, I am, it's what he's black and Samoan, right?
I think so.
Somebody help me out on that one. Yeah, right. Because it's Rocky Johnson and his mom. Yeah, okay, I got that right. Like, hey, you know what I mean? I can be this in a culture that like for a lot of African Americans don't smile in photos, right? Like he can still be all these different things. And granted, he can be these things because he's had the life experiences he has. He has been on the world stage for so long and be able to break out of that. But in the same way we share our stupid trials and tribulations of marching band and being an antler and growing up in San Francisco, as hard as it was. And actually, I dialed it back. Growing up with Kevin, as hard as that was.
Thank you.
Like he can get out there and share the same things of how hard it was to be poor and how angry he was about it. That's something he talks about all the time, right? Is the chip he had on his shoulder and how it made him to do bad decisions.
Jumping off of that, I mean, that's obviously a great answer, but John Cena is another one. And I was talking to someone recently, it might have been you, but about how there's a special something about professional wrestlers where they are just the greatest performers because it's like improv, but it's also physical, and it's like there's so much going on, and it never stops. It's not seasonal; it just keeps going. So you're always sharpening your tool set. John Cena recently, him and
Nikki Bella,
one of the Bellas, Nikki, who had been together forever. They had a breakup, and it was very public, and I didn't know what happened. So I was kind of interested, and it was on the YouTube trending thing. John Cena was on Good Morning America, or some morning show that wasn't the Kind of Funny morning show.
Unfortunately,
not a real morning show.
Get on it.
Those were two women that have obviously had a rapport with him over the last couple of years, and they've had a ton of interviews. And they were like, "Hey, so we've seen you through so much. Like, let's talk about this. Like, how has it been being single? How has it been dealing with this?" And John motherfucking Cena just sat there and was so real and so open, and he was just like, "I'm not dealing with this well. I love her. I still do love her. I hope that we end up together."
I feel like they just want different things.
And he's just like, there's all these tabloids of me, pictures of me with people. It's not what you think. I just can't be alone in my house. I need to go out. I need to spend time with people.
Big house, by the way.
And and he's
Really
like, I'm trying different things. I'm trying new things. I'm trying to make new friendships with people in the neighborhood. And it really is just distraction. Like, I love her and I want things to get better. And, she's going through some stuff and I'm helping her. I'm trying my best to help her through it, but give her space. And I'm just like,
wow.
this is
They're like, that's not a PR answer.
That's not what you say on a morning show. Yeah.
It was so real.
They're like, up next, the weather.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and it was very bizarre. And I still don't know exactly what happened with it all. But
my question is this, and this is literally based on just a Matt Fowler tweet the other day. Is it real that they broke up? He put out one of those Captain America memes. So it was like, so you got worked by this John Cena Nikki Bella thing, and I was like,
there's no way.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, there is a way. Going back to what I'm saying, they're like the best actors ever because they're really good at this stuff, and all of that could have been fake, but that's reality. That's life. Anything could be freaking fake. But I don't know. It felt super real.
It struck you as true.
It struck me as true, and it showed that he has such a range of emotion, and like. We talk about our emotions all the time on podcasts, but to see him do it on a morning show,
Yeah.
it's really important.
See, I think when I think about role models or people that I still look up to, I don't know that there's any one perfect person for that.
Oh, God, no.
I think what you do is you pick and choose traits that you find in others that you find cool or good, right? I listen to a ton of podcasts, probably way more than I should. And there's guys like Joe Rogan that I really look up to, but there are certain traits of his that I just don't vibe with, right? He smokes a ton of weed, does a ton of drugs, and that's never really appealed to me. What I do admire about the guy is his work ethic and his open and honestness and his want to discover whatever level of truth or honesty there might be out there in general. And so I really appreciate that. But like the idea of doing a DMT trip with your buddies on the weekend, again, talk about going out drinking. Fuck that. It's not going to happen. So I think like any guys out there listening, like I don't think it's necessarily bad to look at someone and judge them on like what they're like the good qualities, but also recognize that they have some faults and they have some bad things to them, and just understand that like no one's perfect. You bring up The Rock. I'm sure The Rock has bad days. I'm sure. There's
God, no, but
I'm sure there's someone in The Rock's life that thinks he's an asshole. Right,
Sure.
and I'm sure if you heard a story about how The Rock, I'm sure there's times when he's overacted or raged at someone too.
Of course. But again, that's the whole thing. Is what you just said. There is no perfect person. The amount of people that talk to us about us being role models or stuff like that, right? There's like totally people that like, yeah, sure, have a great Greg Miller story, and I'm sure I did something stupid or said something stupid on a podcast, and people hate me for it.
Yeah,
and like you can't win that person back because how am I gonna do that? But like that's the truth of it all. That there is no perfect person.
Who do you think is a good? Can you pinpoint any guys that you're like, yeah, the guy's doing a good job out there?
I mean, it's funny when I was thinking about comedy and like who I think is like a comedian that makes me feel like I would just want to hang out with him because I think he's a good man is Stephen Colbert. And I don't, and it's like, how do I feel that way? I think it's the way he talks about like his family, the way he talks about like the role of faith in his life, along with making these like really like pointed, constantly like, you know, cutting jokes about the state of our country. But you look at him and you just see this little like glint of goodness in his eye, even as he's doing it. And I don't know how he is in his personal life, but there's something about him that I feel like I like the way he listens when he interviews people. I think he's an interesting man.
Yeah.
He's a man that I'm like, I think you seem to be a role model.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tim, who's your role model? What do you got? What role models you got for me?
I don't know.
Cena, is that your?
Well, I mean, I think John Cena and The Rock
that was a
are
great
good
example.
answers.
That was a great example.
It's good answers because of that. But I mean, yeah, I'm with Nick. Where it is a bit of picking and choosing. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that there is anybody that's like that's a great model because
he's a perfect human being.
Every single role modle I've ever had in my life
expectation.
has let me down in like a real way where they've done something that I'm like, I love you, but I cannot stand
rectify
behind
that
Like
one, yeah.
there are people that I really look up to that I've learned a lot from, and I find out, oh, you cheated on your wife, and it like that fundamentally changes my entire perspective on them.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, I'll always respect the things that you did, but it's always tainted with this thing that like you just can't get away from.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. The masculinity thing that we were talking about earlier, like how it used to be super in vogue, and I do feel like it's just like days go by and it becomes less and less cool to be that way. And again, I'm saying this being here, but growing up with my group of friends that are still friends since we were 11. Like one of my friends, James Burke. You guys, if you watch the wrestling streams we do, he's on them all the time. He might be the most like macho dude in his head, like that I know, where he wants to be cool. He wants to be bigger than you and better than you. And he constantly bullies me. He always had our entire life. He called
the low laugh. I just want you to know. Did you hear the chuckle come from Kevin?
Kevin knows what I'm talking about.
Because he tries to paint himself as the perfect little angel over there when new guests come in.
I'm laughing at what he does. The fact that he walks up and
check this out. Is like James, one of my best friends. I love him to death.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Great guy. But like any chance he gets, he'll talk down to me. He'll
down
call
a
me
little bit.
soft. He'll like all of this stuff where it's just like he'll like give me shit for talking about my emotions or for having the opinions that I have or whatever it is. And it's so funny because like he's kind of his only audience. Like when we're in our group, he's like making fun of me and everybody thinks he's the joke. You get what I'm saying? Like Kevin will sit there and just be like, oh, James, like you're not doing this for anybody but yourself.
Sure.
He's done it for 15 years now and he'll never stop.
No.
But it's just funny where I'll be sitting next to him and I'm just like, all right, James, you're making the wrong joke to the wrong audience, right? Like you're doing this and nobody's with you.
Know your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid James.
I like James.
You give as good as you get, Tim Gettys. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the GameOverGreggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. Thanks for finally giving me my pen back.
This is a nice pen, by the way.
I know, you've been
it had
molested
good
it all
action, and I was
show.
like, I'm going to steal this pen.
Well, I mean, remember, Nintendo
Feel
brought
the weight
like...
of this pen. And tell me, and then feel that.
Oh, it's nice.
Feel the
Nintendo
action.
left like 15
Yeah.
here, so
now
you're
feel
welcome
the
to
action.
take any.
You got to click the button,
Oh,
though.
wow.
It's so easy to click.
Oh.
It's surprisingly nice.
It's too easy. It's a nice
I thought
pen.
you guys were just being idiots.
If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny where you can get each and every episode early. But if you got no bucks to toss our way to say thanks for making good stuff, you can wait. Get it on youtube.com/kindafunny the following Friday or podcast services around the globe. Anna, Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having
Did
me.
we answer your question?
Yes,
On
what a good
manner?
conversation.
Okay, great. Where can people, when can they get what? Give everybody the rundown of Death, Sex, and Money that they
Okay.
should be listening to because I talk about it all the time, but no big deal.
Thank you. Death, Sex, and Money. Get it wherever you get your podcast. And our episode about manhood today is coming out on June 20th. We're working on it now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Crossover.
Yeah,
I like
there you
that.
go.
That was
Yeah.
smart. You guys did good.
Ladies and gentlemen, oh, you got more to say about the
No,
pen?
no, no. We can go to that. I just want to know. I think one of the strengths of Stephen Colbert always has a pen in his hand when he talks. He does this,
true.
and it makes you think.
Maybe that's what we need to do to be a good
Authoritative.
man.
There it is. Shake a pen.
Always
in your
have a
hands.
pen in your hand. Kevin's got one over there. Everybody take a photo of you with your pen in your hand and tweet it at Nick_Scarpino.
Prestige. Thank you.
Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.
It just smacks with authority.
And then we're still
You see what I'm
live, and
saying?
now we're in the post show.
Oh, post
Okay.
show.
It just
Kevin,
smacks.
show me that chat. Let's see what they're saying over here. Shelby Fox says, this was an amazing way to end my workday. Thanks, everyone. No, thank you. Thank you.
I'm
I
sorry,
feel like
you
I
can't
need to
this
have a
back.
professional wrestler on Death, Sex, and
You
Money.
do.
Oh, you
no,
should.
do you want to know the best one you could have?
Yes.
His name, Xavier Woods,
Oh,
a.k.a.
yeah.
Austin Creed.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
For real. Has a PhD.
Where does he live?
Wrestles. He lives in Georgia, but he travels the world.
Xavier
nonstop.
Woods.
He's here a
Yeah,
lot.
Xavier
Yeah.
Woods. Yeah.
Woods.
I can get you put together on email, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's amazing.
I can meet him run into him on the internet.
You can run into him on the internet. He's,
Well, what does he have a PhD in?
I forget. I was afraid you were gonna call me on that. What is his?
Well, the chat will tell us.
No, he did.
No, he didn't.
No, he did.
No, we talked about it recently.
Chat, does Xavier have a PhD?
His,
The
like-
internet knows all.
His
They'll figure it
school-
out.
His school, like,
They
got
found
in
that serial killer,
trouble
for Christ's sake.
or something like that. You know what I mean? You
His
remember what
school
I'm
got in
talking
trouble or something like that.
about? Yeah.
I don't remember that. No.
So he has to move all his credits over, and he was like a class away from it, and he's just like, I don't know.
He's
what the
like,
point
F
is.
it, I'm going to
Yeah.
wrestle.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what, SB? That doesn't
okay,
help.
Trevor
That
Starkey
doesn't
says, yeah,
help
he
there.
doesn't quite have the PhD.
Okay, see, there you
Got
go.
it.
Call Trevor wrong. Call him wrong.
You're all right. I'm sorry. All right. I don't know. Jeez Louise. You know?
I should have worn my glasses, guys.
No,
it's hard
don't
to
worry
read
about
the
it. We need to introduce you because Mr. Yasman 300 says, "Whoa!" It's gone
got
because
big.
Kevin enlarged it. Has Anna seen the 1999 Japanese film Audition? I would love to hear her thoughts about it.
I have not.
I don't know anything about that one.
I don't know.
I know where he's
anything
going with
about
that.
I need to see Audition,
Be
and I
careful with
need
it,
to
Mr.
see
Yasmin.
Game Night. And I
Apparently, and
need to
cockblockers
see
or blockers,
Iron
whatever they
Man.
call it.
Don't take Anna's LaCroix. Maybe she
No,
wanted
I
that
got
fifth
two.
one.
I'm working two right now.
All right, fair
Yeah.
enough. Fair enough.
I prefer that to the apple cranberry so far.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. Andrew Francis says, Nick, I'm digging the pen holding. I say run with it.
Go for it.
No problem.
This is the thing. I like holding pens as well. You
It
see when I do the
gives
shows.
You can do this.
Come on,
pose.
sit down, Joey.
You see this pose I'm doing right here?
Yeah.
This is
That looks
Oh,
like
yeah, that's-
presidential.
inquisitive.
Yeah.
But also authoritative.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what I'm doing. I'm going to lead you on this journey, but I'll come with you as well. Is what I'm saying to you. And then you can do that when you're
That's
done.
right.
Nick,
You
so
see that
when-
right there?
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Nailed
it.
it. No,
When you
no,
hold
no.
the pen,
That was a really good episode.
you go
Thank
tip
you.
down.
Chat, very interesting conversations.
Ooh, what did
Really?
you learn?
Just, I mean, I don't know if it's learning. It's more as like having a conversation about things that I don't know that we get chances to have conversations about that often. We don't get this serious, I feel like, very
Yeah.
often.
I
People
feel
really
you all
do
are
like
so ready to go.
Oh, yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bring a topic to the table, we're all about it.
I
We're
mean,
not scared.
dig-
I
Digging
did
in.
no
Yeah.
research for this.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah,
No
it was real good.
preparation.
There was that brief moment where I was like,
Sorry.
I was like, what does that mean? And I was like, wait, we never actually talked about what this meant. What if this goes totally off the rails in the wrong direction?
We'll just say
Yeah, we
we'll
nailed
just
it.
we'll just say we accidentally
It
lost
was
the
really
footage.
Lots of footage.
Nick, move the pen and do walk-in, says Marcus Brown. It's fine, Marcus.
I like going on journeys.
Got a pen in my hand. There you go.
Okay. Xavier Woods.
Yeah, he's great.
Okay.
He is great. Very, very great energy human being, and does way too much for us for free.
Yeah.
And he's amazing.
He's great too.
He's one of those guys where you
Yeah.
look at, you're like, you shouldn't do all these things. You shouldn't be that cool. But he is.
Cool.
Good guy. Yeah.
Cool, Greg.
Jack, too.
Xavier Woods is cool.
Yeah, man. On the last episode of Raw, they were making something just jogging.
Don't get shocked.
Yeah.
Like just listing all of his accomplishments, and Xavier was just sitting back, like, you can tell he's like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Nick Scarpino, like
I love your
watching
brother so
Nick
much.
Just experience.
I never
Greg.
had a little brother growing
It's
up.
just so-
He's my little brother now.
Like everything my brother does fascinates Nick to no end.
Because-
Like, there's a mic over there that's very low that
Yeah.
he could just pick up and use, but instead, one of the tallest men I've ever met crouches down all the way.
Pops a squat.
The thing,
Yeah.
Anna, the thing you have to realize about Cool Greg is there's a right way to do something, there's a wrong way to do something,
And
then
there's
there's
the
the
cool
cool
Greg
Greg
way.
way.
There's
of
the
doing
cool
something. And it's
way.
always way more interesting than either of the former.
Matt Fowler chiming in because I DM'd him and said, is John Cena and Nikki Bella really broken up? Matt Fowler responds, man, who the F knows? If they are, then they're being shitty about it by teasing getting back together for the sake of promoting Total Bellas. There's a good chance it's all horse footers, though.
So she's adamantly saying, no, check your sources. There's no source even playing saying that I said
Use the mic. Kevin's going to get mad at you.
Just pick up the shock mic.
That's it.
Pick it up. We're going to talk to you in a little bit. Maybe not. Who knows? Pick it up.
You're not going to get shocked. You're fine. Pick it up. You're
Demetrius
fine. You're
Newell
tough.
says, Anna seems like a really nice person. I would like to hear more of her podcast in the future. Luckily,
Oh.
I think that's easy to do.
It's very easy, Demetrius.
If only I could
Check
find
out something
someplace.
called the internet.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a deep back catalog
Death,
you can work your way
sex,
through as well.
And money.
Yes.
SB says, how much taller is Cool Greg?
Yeah, I
want to
know that.
I think he's like 4 inches taller.
He's
than me.
tall.
Yeah.
Come on, stand
I'm
back
6
here.
feet and he's like 6'4".
Cool, Greg, come stand next to Tim.
Somehow, unlike me and my older brother, I got the short gene on that one. But yeah, Cool Greg's really tall. Yeah, that's a solid 3 inches.
Yeah.
That's all you get though.
I
You're
feel
not gonna
like you're
stand
an
there.
unimposing 6'4".
He is.
He
a-
holds his body in a contained
Yeah,
way.
he is very.
Yeah. Maybe it's the hoodie.
He's getting ready to do that like Superman the movie, Clark Kent to Superman move, where he's like, you're like, oh my God, it's true.
It's true.
Aww.
Read out loud, guys.
What, who do we read?
Mike just was a good for you, Nick. Good for you. Is what he wanted me to do.
Oh, okay,
With
great.
walking.
I'm 5'4".
Oh,
Yes, you need to know.
Charles Jacobson.
So who asked that?
Charles Jacobson says, Anna, how many kids do you have, and what's your #1 tip for Greg to do to help his wife whenever they have a child?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Okay. I have one child who's almost 2. And I want to go back when you mentioned Ali Wong and suggested that something about her comedy wasn't totally nuanced. I watched her.
That was Tim said that it wasn't
did.
new.
I
Oh.
hated her new special.
I thought
I
it
didn't
was
see the new
hilarious.
special. I didn't see it, but the pregnant special I watched.
They're both pregnant
They're both
specials, by the way.
pregnant
That's part of the
Oh.
joke. Is she's pregnant again.
She's like,
I
and somebody
missed
said,
it.
is this going to be your bit?
yeah,
She's
she
like, how
has
can
a
this
bit
be my
about it where
bit?
she's like, this is not sustainable.
I watched
get-
pregnant special #1 with
Baby
an
Cobra.
infant, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, she's talking about the things I'm feeling.
That special,
Yeah.
I gave 2 thumbs up.
Okay.
Seeing
Special
her
number
live,
2.
I gave 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
When did you see her live?
Comedy store.
Saw the
She was
Comedy
just
Store.
one of the-
She's from here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but she lives out in LA.
But we started
now.
out in LA.
Yeah.
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 And then, but this special, oh man.
I'm sorry.
Hard pass.
I think there was a solid 25 minutes of hilarious material in this new one. I love the joke where she's like, "Don't all your friends think you're taking something away from your husband?" And she's like you mean the
Oh.
burden to provide? Like, it was so fucking
That was
funny.
in the trailer. Yeah,
It's
she's like,
so good.
I make more. The only thing that's changed
Yeah.
his last special is I make more money than him now.
Yeah, she
That's
has a
everything
great
that's
she has a great joke, and I don't want to
Brilliant.
spoil it, but it's like she says to me like, "Now my husband treats his job like an elaborate hobby. Like he comes and goes as he pleases when he walks, and he just goes, 'Hey, motherfucker.'" It's like it's but the way I don't know.
I need to see
Okay.
how it goes. Yeah,
Tip
my
about
tip, my tip.
parenting. Let's see.
Again, Jen not pregnant, just tweeting about her body being ruined by it.
But she's not.
I said not pregnant. That's literally what I led with, Kevin.
But like she's not, right?
She's not pregnant.
You don't have
Trust
some
me.
crazy reveal.
And she's
No.
having anxiety about it ruining her body.
Yes.
It changes your body.
Yeah.
In ways that are like, it's a new phase.
Sure.
It's new.
The thread they wanted to talk about that we never did, thank God, because it's already out there, was that she's, for as long as we've talked about having kids, been afraid of like the tearing downstairs and all this
You
stuff
saw that back
happening.
up.
Yeah, exactly. No, trust me.
It's easy.
One of our other friends is always talking about that too. We'll only leave names out of it. So I guess I forget. I think it was Alex Money's wife tweeted about that or something. That was her fear. Jen's like, "Oh my God, girl, this is totally my fear." Then there was a thread about it, and then my mom chimed in and being like,
Oh, great.
Guess what? Greg tore the hell out of me. You're gonna get.
Oh,
and I was
no,
like, wow,
Mom,
all right, yeah.
Mom.
Which then spawned my favorite. And there's been a lot of good subreddit, kind of funny subreddit titles. But there was one that somebody put up was just in case anybody was wondering about big old Jamie Kennedy's butthole.
Yeah, tore it apart.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to change the subject.
Thank you.
No.
Yes, number one
Oh.
tip. That's
Number
all.
one tip. I feel like the thing that I like, if you have a little bitty baby, the thing that I really went through that I wasn't prepared for was like, oh, this changes my ability to like move in the world as an independent person. Like,
Okay.
especially if you're nursing or
Yeah.
like you just can't be away from the baby for more than 2 hours. And that was like, oh, this is really, so I think it's like figuring out as a partner how to like keep remind your wife that she's still the same person, even though
Gotcha.
she's going through this massive change.
Gotcha.
And, you know, because it's a lot.
Well, sure, your whole identity shifts, right?
Your whole identity shifts in wonderful ways.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also like, how do I get to like go for a walk? Like, you kind of looking for ways to like push her out the door.
Gotcha.
Because that's not your instinct as a mom is like, at least in the it's like, oh,
Yeah.
let me just
I
try to
need
be
to be
super
there.
vigilant,
Yeah, okay.
So it's that. And then also like, maybe you could learn how to schedule babysitters. So it's not just mom's job.
Okay.
Because
sure,
that is a task.
What I'm saying is, as soon as the mom and baby can be separated, it doesn't have to be the 2 hours. I'm just telling you, I come in here with the baby Bjorn.
The baby carrier,
The kid's
man.
on here
Yeah.
during the
It's the
show.
best.
Kid starts crying, put it in the back room. Guess what? There's a private Twitch stream that only patrons can get to. They get to
see the
watch the
crying
kid.
baby.
Then
Your kid looks
You're gonna have to
dehydrated.
allow
You
it.
tip.
Monetize the
Water
baby.
comes in.
you tip a certain amount, Kevin comes in, gives it a toy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, this is
I love
perfect.
this. There's no child labor laws that could potentially backfire
This is
on
all
us on this one.
crowdfunding. This isn't. They don't. The kid doesn't have a job.
That's fair. That's fair. I also feel like, and this, I think you're going to be a great dad. I do.
Thank you.
But I do wonder at what point and how quickly, when that kid is born, is that kid going to be wearing a Ghostbusters outfit?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
they got one.
Is it
Are you
immediately?
kidding me?
Is it at the
I
hospital?
guarantee you, one of the first photos you ever see of that kid, it's in a Superman. or
Don't wrap it
Supergirl
in a
onesie.
blanket. Just put it
Exactly.
in the
Right.
onesie.
Or put it in the Superman blanket.
There it is.
Duh.
And because Instagram feeds are going to change.
And then are you
overnight.
kidding me? Of like, yeah, like I've seen it already. People I will just directly rip off, but it'll be me in the Ghostbusters outfit with the kid in the little Slimer costume. You know what I mean? Or Stay Puff. You know, I'm all over this.
We're not.
Ryan Portilla.
We're not planning on having kids, but I do want to be. I want someone to have a kid because no one in my family has kids, and it's annoying. And at least
Someone reproduce,
Someone
please.
needs to just spit one out or do whatever the hell needs to happen in the 9 months. But like, because I have this this idea of being Uncle Nick, now let me take you on a walk. Back in the day when I was
like
a kid,
this idea.
No.
back when I was a kid, I wanted to dress like Batman for every Halloween, and my parents would not, rightfully so, shell out the $500 it took to get the movie accurate Batman costume. I will do that for any of your kids. Whoever wants them, if they grow up, I'll buy them another one. I want them to open up the fucking thing and have the Batcave Batsuit thing in there. Okay, if you're willing to let me do that.
Dream uncle.
There was a toddler. So somebody, I want to say maybe Agent M, but somebody like loosely connected to Marvel today tweeted something out about like this is happening in 5 minutes or whatever that was going to be, and it was a GIF attached to it of like a toddler at Comic-Con in a Wolverine outfit, like doing this, and I was like,
love
that. So good.
seriously, like
That kid's got 1,000, like
Every
100,000
Friday,
Instagram
I would
followers.
dress up in a costume to go out to pizza for my parents, right? And yes, this continued throughout grade school. This wasn't like a small thing. You know
I
what I
did
mean?
that yesterday.
And so, like, if literally the kid wants to dress up at any time, I'm in suit too. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Well, you know what I mean? Like, let's get it
So
together,
funny.
and we'll never have the stuff
Wait.
that's like not accurate.
Did you just say you used to dress
I'm sorry.
up
yeah, he said every Friday.
because you've told us you had pizza night, but you've never mentioned that you were dressing up every Friday.
Sure. Well, see, here's the thing, Captain Coyle. If I can take you on a walk, right?
Yeah, I'm
is that
listening.
for big old Jamie Kennedy and #1 crane operator Greg Miller back in the suburbs of Chicago? There are many phases to Friday pizza night.
Yeah.
And now, being a child, I'm not in on the why we stopped going certain places or what happened.
Right,
But
right,
for
right.
a long time, it was Friday. We went to downtown Glen Ellen to Baroni's. You probably see me wear the Baroni shirt here once or twice on the Kind of Funny vids.
Yeah.
And that would be the one where, yes, I would dress as a Ninja Turtle. I would dress as Waldo. I would dress as a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
Waldo.
Yeah, why not?
Just in case you wanted to get lost.
I'm a big
for a
fan of
while.
his books and his novels.
Yeah.
Did this start on Halloween and you were just like, man, that was
No,
so
no.
much
It's just
fun?
I felt really good, you know, being in costume. And now you might say, tell me about your Ninja Turtles costume. I gladly will. What it was is, if you remember the
I don't
ones
think
that
anyone
they
asked that
used to
question.
make, that it was the mask. Tim, you remember these? It was the plastic mask,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then like the sai or the bow or whatever. It was that
Lazy.
over my school uniform. In my blue St. Pat's shirt and blue Dockers or whatever, and then the turtle shell and the turtle thing over. And now here, let me just finish this one off. So we would go to Baroni's in costume, eat the pizza. Of course, I'm a little boy. I
Yeah.
finished my pizza much faster than my parents. Which at what point, what would I do for the next 30 minutes? I would go be the doorman for Baroni's, and I would open for people.
Oh, always a host.
At what point, if you can pinpoint maybe a specific date or an age range, did your mom just give up on you?
It was
Did she just go, it's not going to ever be normal?
It was
Let's just
very.
give up."
It was very before I had that ability to remember something like
Okay,
that. You know what I
okay.
mean? Where she was just like, "I guess it's done."
Because you are a special human being.
I am.
Like, you share stories that I'm like,
No one else in my life has those stories.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
I mean, the closest I get to
cool.
that is when I used to go to a restaurant chain named Coco's, I would sit and I would eat all the little individual jelly packets, and that would embarrass my mom.
Sure.
They would come over and I would have to ask for more, and there were guys like, I haven't taken your order yet. Where did the
I
jelly
said, "Do you
packets
want
go?
water?"
And I was like, oh, Kevin's gone. I wanted to point out that Kevin had the light of God on him.
Yeah, he was so
it was
bright.
beautiful.
Kids
There
are,
it is.
kids are. I was just at Disneyland.
Oh, yeah,
and
there it is.
The only reason I want kids is to take them to Disneyland and experience that magic.
Yeah, but
through
your
their
luck, they're gonna
eyes.
hate it. They're gonna hate
No,
Disneyland.
not a chance. But speaking of the magic of kids, I saw this video this morning, and it just
Oh, this video?
it just broke me.
Oh, bring this up. Can
Is
we bring
that
this
at
up
a
for the
dentist's office?
Yeah, it's a
the chat?
dentist.
Give me 2 seconds. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I know this isn't how we normally do. There you go.
Not getting any audio. Oh, I'm muted.
I don't even know if you need it, honestly.
Yeah, you don't need audio.
Yeah, it's just watch this kid's reaction to all this magic this guy does. It's amazing. And also watch mine because I don't know how he does it.
You know how he does it?
No?
Like,
you wanna
see
know?
them freak out.
No.
All right.
No, it's magic, Kevin.
All right.
It just keeps going, and then he eventually like has the kid like blow, and then the thing comes out of his mouth. It's awesome.
Just let it keep going, yeah. Genius.
See, if my dentist was like this, I would have liked to go to the dentist.
Two.
Oh my god, I love everything about this. This is fucking everything, man.
That's amazing, right?
This is amazing.
I kind of believe that kid's breathing fire.
That kid's just an X-Men in training.
What's happening?
See, why can't the world be more like this? That's all I'm
it's
saying. Why can't this
wonderful.
just be the norm?
Oh.
Yeah.
Why can't people report on stuff like this?
So,
more often?
Kevin, let me try to guess how he did it. He's got lights under his thumbnails, and when he installed these, and when he touches them, his thumbnails light up.
I mean, that's close enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
That's lovely. That's what a nice
I want to
Wow.
point out. Did you watch My Next Guest Needs No Introduction?
No.
It's okay, but he had Tina Fey on, who was from Chicago.
Yeah,
And
right.
he asked her, what is the best deep dish pizza? And she said, Lou Giordano's or whatever that place is that you hate. I just
Lou
wanted-
Malnati's.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
it.
Giordano's. She said Lou Malnati's. That's fine.
She said Lou
That's good.
Malnati's. Sorry.
I'm not gonna go to the math.
sorry.
That's fine. Did they ask about Portillo's?
No, they did not, and I thought that was
There you
just
go.
an
That's all I
egregious
care.
error.
That's all I care
I thought
about.
that was a terrible error.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like we should say congratulations to Joey because in the chat he asked when he should tell his parents his wife is pregnant.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations, Joey.
I don't know. I don't know. What's the rules before you start telling people? Not
I
rules,
feel
but
like you got to tell before your wife starts showing, but only when you're ready to share the news outside of your marriage.
Okay.
Because it becomes news that's not just yours.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, how did you guys do like a cool like announcement video?
We just
or-
did like, hey, we just told.
Yeah. Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So when are you gonna tell us?
I'm not. I'm gonna have to break it to you because you want me to wait 7 years or whatever to try to time out with you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
That's not gonna
100%,
happen. That's not
100%.
gonna happen.
Joey's pregnant.
I would love you.
I don't think
guys
it's
all
our
did that.
job. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Game Over Greggy show. Thanks for hanging out for the post show.
Yeah.
Thanks for supporting us on patreon.com/kindafunny, you know. Tell your friends. Tell your wife, your husband, whatever it's going to be. Tell your husband.
I'll tell my
Okay,
husband.
to watch this show.
I will.
Okay.
Arthur.
Arthur.
Arthur is such a cool name. It's such a
Good
stately
name.
name.
Yeah, my daughter just learned how to say it. She says Arthur. Like it's very funny to see a 2-year-old learn how to say
I love
Arthur.
it.
Well, Anna, thank you again for coming by.
Thank you.
Everybody watch Death or listen to Death, Sex, and Money. And until next time, no, it's been our pleasure to serve you. Do I still need a point? I'm gonna burp. I'm sorry. I don't know how people drink this LaCroix.
What do you mean? It's good.
It's good, but the burps?
That's the second one. I'm loving it. Go ahead.
Thanks for watching the Game Over Greggy Show, everybody. Click up here to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click down here to go to the Patreon page. Click here for a playlist of other Game Over Greggy Show episodes. And click down here to go check out Death, Sex, and Money. If that's possible, I'm not sure how annotations work anymore. Cool Greg does them. Thanks, Cool Greg.